Welcome back. This is your average esports podcast, episode 37. With me again is Skim, and this time we're gonna go over all the rosters, right, in Dota 2 and
Yeah,
CS:GO,
so
or
many.
not all of them, but like all the important ones I care about. So, I guess let's get started. Start with Dota, right? So first, before we actually get into the rosters, I gotta point out, like at this point in Dota's lifetime, they just gotta give up the first major, like straight up.
First major is pretty much useless at this point, because OG at the very least has proven that technically speaking, all majors are kind of useless. But each OG, Liquid, and I'd say to a degree, actually, that's both these two teams have proven that like you don't really need to do much for the first half of the year. If anything, it's more destructive to start off the year hot. It's
Pretty
impossible to
much.
maintain. It's impossible to maintain that form or it's mostly impossible to maintain that form. VP has also proven that it's almost unnecessary to actually maintain that form. Same with Secret. Like how well you do throughout the season almost doesn't matter. And these early tournaments, if anything, they just drain you. You have a longer season. So yeah, the first major, I think in the future it might just be for like the tier 2 teams to like do something, get a
Just
little bit of money.
just mess around,
Yeah,
try to squeeze in. I will
pretty
I,
much.
I will say there is something funny about Dota 2 compared to like CS:GO, like and the creation and like the gravity around the international in a sense. Because the international exists, like all perception of judgment of like who's the best and what it means to go down in history is so fundamentally altered with the existence of the international.
It's actually so stupid though. It's really unfortunate for these teams because VP, if it wasn't for the international, they would probably go down in
I think
as
they
one of the
I think they
maybe the
are
best team or one of the best teams. Definitely like one of the
like
best for sure.
this is this is gonna sound like heretical. If somebody asked me who was better, the OG lineup that won two TIs or this Virtus Pro lineup with Roger, I'd say the Virtus Pro lineup with Roger is better by a long shot.
Well, I mean, they've certainly maintained their form for significantly longer.
Yeah, like I think that's actually way more impressive, to be honest. Even though like I will give the caveat, of course, that OG's like peak value or like peak performance is straight up the best I've ever seen, but in both TIs. But that's
I think
different.
I think at that point though, you also have to ask yourself the question: what does it actually mean to be the best team in Dota? Because it, to a certain degree, you have to argue now: is it more difficult to perform well at TI, or is it more difficult, especially twice in a row, or is it more difficult to perform throughout, let's say, 2.5 seasons, which was what they did, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and
because
these are like really extreme examples, but like if you want
yeah,
if you want like the aggregate, then technically Liquid is the best.
true, Liquid basically combines those factors pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's
Like
probably a show
it's
in itself,
it's
actually.
such an interesting conversation because like in CS:GO this conversation isn't even like brought up because the majors don't have that polarizing effect, but the international is so polarizing. Like I actually compared it once to like the Tower of Babylon, as in like it's the only thing that kind of mattered.
It really is. It really is. And yeah, in CS, you just almost the majors are starting to be phased out almost in terms of like important. Not well. I don't want to take anything away from the majors, but you know, like the circuit almost like the circus definitely matters more than
I think
just a major by itself.
I th- I th- I think it's very close. Like I think like Saddlekiss basically said he considers the Grand Slam better than the major than a major victory. I think
Well, now certainly.
it's certainly now, and I think the fact that basically every major tournament circuit outside of the major has a better tournament format, like ESL does, DreamHack does, Starladder does now. The only thing that's worse is Blast, right?
Well, and Blast is not even trying. Let's be real. It's not
And
a real tournament.
not only that, but like if you look at fucking the teams that show up, the majors will fundamentally be always worse than any top tier tournament
Well,
because
because of the
of the
legend
wacky
system.
roster rules.
Well, and the legend system.
And yeah, the legend system, which yeah, basically what I was talking about. And then like there's like and then like the fucking seating. There's just so many weird problems in the major,
Yeah,
right? So like I think
which is then obviously in Dota the exact opposite, where the majors, not necessarily the majors themselves now, but obviously the Valve majors, the old ones, and the Valve. Let's just say every Valve tournament is always the pinnacle of Dota. at
Yeah,
that point in time because it has for the most part the superior format, the superior teams, superior seating, everything.
yeah. Like the only like the only times you can think of where like a tournament was pretty close to like. All right, here's something funny. I can't actually like quantify this. I think back before the major started. I actually
Yeah.
think DAC and like MLG felt like bigger deals winning those than winning a major now.
I'm not sure about MLG, but DAC definitely. DAC because it was like the first
No,
sort of
I'm
like
only thinking of that one MLG that Eternal Envy won.
which
But I think that was less that tournament specifically, and more because DK Alliance and Navi were there. So
it definitely felt bigger because it was also one of the first to just have this sort of international
yeah,
attendance,
maybe
right?
that's why. Maybe I'm just
Um,
misremembering it.
yeah,
So
back in the day, there were definitely fewer events that had teams from all across from all regions. Most tournaments, if at all, had like it brought in like a Chinese team or two. I very distinctly remember Starter Season 9 was the first one to have actually every region represented. Well, obviously not SA at the time because that wasn't really a region back then, but right.
mm-hmm.
They brought in the Korean team, MVP Phoenix, they brought in a Chinese team, CIS, NA, Euro. So that was a big one. But yeah. No, I agree with you actually. I think DAC, I mean DAC is sort of like what I think Valve almost modeled those majors after.
But like they
If
didn't really do it quite right. I don't know
they
what's
don't
different about it though.
Yeah, they didn't really do it, but it. I think DAC always felt like a major from the like. In retrospect, it definitely always was, and even like the one that wasn't a major, was one. So
Yeah.
yeah, DAC to me definitely one of the big events. But yeah, Dota, it's the tournament formats. I mean, now with the new major system, unfortunately, the majors aren't really as big anymore, and some of them just because the TOs have a lot more control, feel based
Yeah.
on decisions being made, between like casters format and
Yeah,
even
like
the
they
teams.
what's funny is I think like Valve even wants them to kind of cheap out a little bit on like the expenses for the major because it only makes TI look better in comparison.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so too. I think the 2 seasons that we had with the Valve majors, or I guess more like the one actually, because the first one was really the real one with the real majors, right? The
Yeah.
Frankfurt, Shanghai, Manila, where Valve really went all out and almost like there's so many rumors about Valve literally giving these tournament organizers blank checks to organize these events. Those felt in a bubble actually almost like TI in terms of like at least Manila was what every major was supposed to be, right? No issues in terms of like the production.
That one was fucking crazy. Like
It was really crazy and it was really good too. That was like you have no production issues and every player's happy because Frankfurt didn't have production issues, but the players were unhappy because ESL had a stupid setup.
mm-hmm.
Manila Major was what Valve envisioned, and that one was so good it almost was better than TI that year, in my opinion,
Mm.
just because the Manila crowd obviously added so much to it.
Yeah.
Um, so I agree with you. I think Valve almost wants these tournaments to feel to feel like lesser versions of those, just because that makes TI all the more grand.
All right. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the teams that are basically just skipping out. So Secret, should they make a change?
I mean, at this point, it's too late to make a change because if you make a change now, what kind of players are even available?
I mean, they
If they
they could
had
just wait till the major's done, right? So that's
Sure, they could wait until the major's done and maybe snag one of those players. Maybe they will. I almost doubt it though, because at that point you also have to wonder, if a player feels like he's like, as a player, you're not really, you generally have a good idea of whether or not you're getting kicked. Obviously, there's always those like blindsided ones, right? But I think
Matumba Man. Yes.
yeah, I think if you're in a team like Secret, I think you probably understand whether or not you're gonna get kicked, and I mean your
What's
options after the majors are gonna be really slim too.
What's
So
funny
it's up
about
to you.
Secret is like technically speaking, like their worst performing player at TI, and like that's the only reason you would kick somebody is because they fucked up TI is Zai, and Zai is like either their first or second best player. That's
Oh, I
how
mean,
I see it.
generally speaking, I think he's actually their best player. So, even if he
So
had a
that
bad
makes
TI,
zero sense.
yeah. I mean, most people have been speculating whether or not they would kick mid one or
I
get
think
rid of mid one.
I think mid one's a good choice actually, but here's my problem with that. Like I was looking through all the mid laners, like there aren't that many great mid laners.
They really aren't. There were rumors, very stupid ones. I'm not even sure if they were actual rumors or just some Redditor making it up. But I read somewhere about maybe like them getting Shadow.
That would be
Um,
fucking terrible.
I agree. No, I agree with you though in general. Like there's just like not many mid laners. I mean, maybe Sumail if he doesn't play with Quincy Crew.
No, I don't think
Like,
like
do personalities even match up there? I don't know.
I don't think that
Doubt
I
it.
don't think that works, man. Like, like basically the whole problem I have with Sumail is like he didn't work with EG. Why would I assume he could work now with Secret? Right? Because like EG's like was created in a sense to help him win, and he wasn't as good as Arteezy. Like I think we'll get to that later. I think EG made the right choice there, but yeah.
Well, my question is though, was EG really created to have him succeed? Like, yeah, they built the quote
No,
unquote
I
build the
feel
team
like
around
they
him.
didn't have him. They didn't build the team to make him succeed. If they wanted to do that, they should have kept PPD to make the team.
Well, they
What
should
they
have
did
never.
was let him make the team,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
and that's the difference. I think is like this secret team is fucking fantastic, and in that sense, Sumail would technically buy into it, but it's not really like if Puppy is smart, he should realize his vision of the game would naturally clash with Sumail's, and then he just create like that secret, the entire like secret, just like the All-Star secret one, like the really fucking good
Right.
one. He just recreate that again, except it would be on a faster time clock probably.
Well,
So I don't think
all I
he'd
have
do
to
it.
all I have to say on that all topic is that I think Secret needs to make a change because they've been together for a season. The core has been together for longer, right?
Yeah,
Yapsor Mid One Puppy, and technically Zai has also been with them before that too. So it's like I personally think they're
they're
they don't
not.
have a lot of room to grow,
Yeah,
if
they're
at
not
all.
gonna. I don't think. I don't think they're gonna pull like a Liquid where like
No.
Liquid was like together for like an year and a half longer maybe than maybe it should have been in a sense. But
Yeah,
like that extra year was like really good. It was like shockingly good. It's like that's like they were just top 3 the entire time though. But
and I don't think Secret is going to replicate that. I feel like the competition right now is a little bit fierce, especially. I mean, we're going to talk about that later, but the new Alliance squad coming up.
mhm.
I think Europe is not going to be easy for Secret this season. Whereas previously it was what almost like a walkover for them. Like they could just qualify for pretty much everything. Almost no threat really. Right now, I just don't see that room for growth. Obviously, the quality is still there, so if they just keep that quality, that alone would be great. Obviously, but are you really happy with that? I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I guess here's I'll give Secret some positives. We never really saw them drop off. Not like yeah, Ti was the
Yeah,
worst event, but still pretty good event overall. And like, there's no reason to assume they'll drop off immediately. And if you really buy into the idea that you have to have the best team play, which like PPD did, that's kind of like the creation of this particular NIP stack. Well, partly. I think the other part is like I don't think he got all the best players he could have. Um, but like if you buy into the idea that OG won TI because they had the best team play, and I think that's part of it. But I think that's like kind of like that's a very selective way to model their victory. Then keeping the same 5 technically could help that in that sense.
it could help, but my worry is just that for a team to develop that, like that's almost like it's not like OG developed it either. Like the
No, they
team
just
play,
ran into it.
they just ran into it and they're like, oh well, guess
Well,
what? We're actually working really well as a team.
and what's funny is I don't think they could have done this unless Flyback stabbed them.
Yeah,
Like
I agree.
it had to go down the
That
exact way it did. Like even if we went back in time before like Flyback stabbed them, we'd be like, Seb, No Tail, you gotta listen to me. You gotta get Anna, you gotta get Jerax, and you gotta get Thompson. And for whatever reason they listened to me, it wouldn't work without like all the hatred and all the vengeance and all that shit like combining into like this melting pot of whatever the fuck happened. Right? Like I think it's a very this OG is like one of the I I'll put it this way: this OG is like like so exceptional in terms of like what the fuck it did and how it happened that I'm gonna go ahead and say nobody will ever recreate what they did. Like basically, they are kind like the only other team that's as weird as they are is technically Wings. right? Because literally nobody knows how the fuck Wings did what Wings did. Like we know
Right.
why it works, we don't know how they came up with it because their evolution makes zero sense, right? Same thing with OG, basically. Is all I'm saying. Like, don't copy those guys, man. Like, they
Yeah,
don't.
and that's why I think like going for team play. Well, like obviously, yeah, if you have the best team play, in my opinion, yeah, you're gonna win. But like, how are you really gonna? There's no recipe for success on that end.
Mhm.
There's no recipe in how to find out to get the best team play. You either click or you don't, in my opinion. There's rarely been teams that have sort of. I actually can't think of anybody that just developed that team play, right? Pretty much all of the best teams in Dota 2 history that we can attribute like team play as one of the core factors of their success to.
It was already
They
part
just
of it.
started out. They basically started out because they had strong team play. Alliance, that team that kicked off well, they immediately had strong team play, the synergy, and then they developed the other factors to then become the super team, right?
Yeah, I mean,
That's pretty much
I
what
will
every
I will say Alliance is kind of funny because I think they actually had to have Eternal Envy in that team first before they could get the team play.
they actually did too.
Like, I think like that's like a really underrated part because like the way his mind worked on the gold thing like really helped their team play
From a
incidentally.
strategic level, absolutely. From a strategic level, absolutely. He helped develop a lot of their strats from the get go. And I mean, obviously, not to take anything away from S4 or Loda, but Envy definitely laid a lot of groundwork that made
Like,
that
I don't think
team
either of them had the
successful.
idea of how to use the gold correctly to enable their team play, which eventually made them so fucking good, basically.
Yeah.
But I will say, even if Eternal Enemy stayed on that team, it would have never worked. So
Oh no, no, no,
yeah,
no.
so
They definitely needed to kick
it was
into
like it was the right
win.
transmutation of everything to come together for that team too. But
and
like
and
it made
also
more
and
sense.
also in hindsight, you also have to consider that that was also the year EGM popped off.
Yeah,
Like it was his debut year, pretty much, and then he popped off, and he's gone ever since, pretty much.
yeah. I
Like
think I think it's because this is like random tangent because I'm actually rewatching all of Dota history. Basically, EGM is
whoa,
like super. He's very similar to AUI.
I was about to say that he's
Very
incredibly
similar.
similar. Yeah, they're very similar. Not necessarily even in playstyle, because I think there's significant differences in their playstyle, but like the big thing is that they just work under very specific circumstances. Like AY as a support only worked that year
Yeah,
where he won.
and I don't think it's like some weird circumstance that it happened that Eternal Envy helped both of these players. Right? It's like I think and
Well,
Eternal Envy technically didn't
he didn't really yeah.
help EGM directly, but like his ideas did.
I was about to say the groundwork that he laid definitely did, because that allowed Alliance to be the team where EGM could even thrive in the first place.
Yeah. I'll talk about this
That
later.
particular
I'll
playstyle.
talk about this later if we have time. Basically,
Yeah.
I'll get your thoughts on it because like what I'm doing is pretty interesting. But
All right. Look forward to it. But yeah, so we covered Secret as a team that's not going. Who else is not going?
we're
VP.
gonna let's skip Kuroki's stack because we don't even know what the
Yeah.
fuck's happening there, right?
Well, we know that they're staying as a stack. They're just basically figuring out a new org, or they're building a new org.
And basically, usually I'd say you should change the lineup because I'll go ahead and say I think like their run at TI was a miracle run that was predicated on ridiculous team play and clutch and all that shit. But because they're looking for a new org and basically trying to create one, you don't want to add like another problem into the mix. So you may as well just keep these five, run it for like maybe one of the majors, and then see how it goes, and then change if you have to.
And I mean, they're doing the right thing. They're just taking time off too. They're probably gonna chill until like the second major.
Yeah, that's my guess.
And I think that's perfectly fine for them. They obviously in the whole creation process of the org, I'm pretty sure it's just their manager and Kuroki who are really gonna deal with most of the stress on that end. So
Yeah,
everybody
but I
else can
mean,
just focus on chilling.
like you don't want to add more shit on Kuroki's end.
No, for
like,
sure. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I think this is all. I think this is also one of the reasons why they're actually taking the time off.
Mhm.
Like, if the organization process wasn't part of the deal, maybe I could see them even still competing, because Kuroki is the kind of player that just wants to grind, right? He just wants
Yeah,
to.
it's just who
He
he
just wants
is.
to win. It's just who he is, exactly. So I think this is just very big part of why they're taking a break is the org thing, but at the same time, again, I think for most teams it would be, especially the established ones, and especially if you're keeping the roster, it makes no sense to play this early.
As for OG, I think they're just gonna do the same thing they did last year, except for different reasons. Like basically, I'll say it like last year they're kind of basking in the glory of pulling off the greatest underdog win of all times, right? Right. And then this year, Anna's like, "What? I guess I may as well do it again." And then No Tail's like, "It's time to go save the world." Instead of
Just
like,
run
come
it
on guys,
back.
let's play some Dota. Oh god damn it. I don't know. Actually, I don't really know what the fuck's going on with the rest of the team. But basically, it just feels like they're gonna do the same thing they did last year, and because, and I can't even blame them. Like it worked.
It worked, and yeah, I mean, so I said this already after their first TI win, but look, if you're Anna, you're like what 19, you just got like let's say $5 million. I don't know how much he actually made on that first win. Let's just say he made $5 million,
He's
right?
yeah.
I mean, is he, let's be real here. You're just chilling. You live in Australia. You have a good life, and he probably doesn't even have to spend much. Like looking at Anna, I don't even think he's like a guy that spends a lot of money. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he still lives with his mom. Let's just put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just chilling, and I think I think there's a pattern where Anna just maybe he's not maybe even interested in that big of like the esports pro life. I think that's also one of the reasons why he's just taking all the time off. I mean, realistically, it's not like he has a lot of stress, right?
Yeah,
I think he
like
just doesn't like the. I think I also read somewhere that I think in an interview or something, where he just said he just doesn't enjoy this kind of life.
I'm not. I wouldn't be surprised. Here's Did I ever talk to you about Life, the StarCraft 2 player? Like
Yeah,
basically,
occasionally.
yeah. Basically, here's my theory about Life because he's basically before he was banned, right, for match fixing. A lot
Right.
of people were telling me he was the greatest of all time. Obviously, I was like the only guy who didn't. I wasn't saying I was the only guy. I was like the biggest like voice against that. Basically, there are a few reasons why, but the one of the reasons like, but what was crazy about Life in particular was like he had an insane clutch, as in like it didn't really matter what situation you put him under, he would always like play at his absolute best, assuming it was a high pressure match. And the reason he could do that, I suspect, and I think it's kind of partly confirmed, is because he didn't give a fuck, right? Like he really like basically this guy had all the talent in the world to be the best in the world from the very beginning. He just didn't practice. And then when like they gave him like some scheduled like rigorous practice, like Life, go play 6 hours, 7 hours a day. Like fine, I will, because like you're paying me now. He in 2 months he went from like a B team StarCraft 2 player to the best in the world, right? And in Anna is kind of similar, as in and the reason I'm making this parallel is because neither of them truly give a fuck about the pro gamer life and like the inherent ambition that comes with it. As in like Anna doesn't strike me as a guy who's like I want to be the absolute best. Like he doesn't strike me as like Kobe Bryant. Like I will win everything ever possible. He strikes me as a guy who's like, well, I'll I'll try when it's like a super big tournament. The rest of the time, though, I'll just chill.
It's to add to that though. I think it doesn't help that his career was literally, oh, take this major win, take this major win. Oh, you won TI. Oh, you won TI again. I feel like if he had started out his career a little bit different, because he kind of did, right? He was actually that guy that struggled to even break into the scene. Um, I feel like maybe it would have gone differently, but because he won so early and people didn't even give him credit for it, um, I think he just at that point was like, whatever.
And I will say it's also
May,
because he's from Australia. Like that's literally
yeah,
the worst travel time of everybody.
yeah, and those people are usually also pretty chill too.
Yeah. So
No, but I mean, I think, and what you said about them not life not giving a fuck, I think that also speaks to the entire OG lineup this year or last. Boy, yeah, this year.
and last
I
year,
mean,
like,
well, and last year to a degree too. Yeah, like,
but it was like a
well,
different
I think
kind.
I think last year was a little bit more intense though because
It was more
obviously the
intense because they wanted
revenge.
revenge. But like once they
Yeah,
got
but
out of the revenge cycle, they just started playing.
yeah,
They just started playing
yeah,
however they wanted.
and I mean, there's a certain beauty to it, and I think we talked about this already after TI, but I think if you want to be one of the if TI is the place with the biggest pressure in pretty much all esports, almost in my opinion,
Probably
just
is.
because of the way the Dota circuit works,
Yeah.
that being able to have a no fucks given attitude and still perform is probably the most valuable weapon you can have.
Yep. As
So yeah,
Kuroki also pointed out.
I think this is. I mean, yeah, and I was about to say that Liquid lineup even this year at TI also looked like they didn't give a fuck, even
Like
though they want to win, but it almost felt like they were whatever.
that's I think that's also why they happen to be the two finalists.
Yeah,
Basically,
I
like
agree.
if I was looking at like pure skill played in the tournament, I'd say the actual finalists probably this is obviously a really weird way to put it, but I think the finalists in my mind, if I was looking at pure skill without the clutch factor, would have been OG versus PSG LGD.
Oh, absolutely. And you could see it also in the way that OG clapped Liquid.
Yeah,
That
like I feel
Liquid
like LGD would have
wasn't really a finalist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is a good transition because we'll go to LGD because this is a team where I think it's really obvious they have to make a change, but they can't.
Chinese Dota is in a little bit of a
Yeah.
bad situation right now. To provide a little bit of context, for those that don't know, but Chinese Dota is in a pickle. They are currently struggling to make money off of their orgs, and the way they thought the solution should work is, hey, how about we just demand a ridiculous amount of buyout for every player? They've found some workarounds, so that's why in the
That's
last
why everybody's
what, 3 to
loaning
4,
everybody else.
last 3 to 5 years, it's been like, oh yeah, we're loaning this player to this team. That makes Dota just really difficult for. I'm pretty sure FY is actually still on loan from Vici. I don't think they actually ever bought him. I think he's still on loan.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of politics involved for sure, because at that obviously everybody can waive the buyout fee. But obviously, and you know, what's the difference between loaning and buying at that point, really? But couple that with the ridiculously long contracts that they also sign with everybody, because some players are just signed for like 5 years there. That just makes changing orgs very difficult. So if they can't pick up a player, it's because the player's already signed. I'm pretty sure also that's why they turned Chalice, by the way, at that point, because he was a pop star and he wasn't really signed to anybody.
He's also now the best offlaner in China, so
well,
it worked out.
Obviously they couldn't have known that at that
couldn't
point.
have known that at the time. Yeah, like it worked out for them finally.
Right, and I'm not saying they only signed him because he was a free agent, but it probably
helped.
It helped for sure. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. LGD, a team that wants to make a change but can't.
All right, now let's go to the last big team that made a change but won't be playing at the major, Virtus Pro. What do you think of their change?
They're probably not even the best team in
CIS
anymore.
Damn, it's cold.
That they already played this qualify for, what was it, Summit?
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay.
They actually won it, but then they decided not to go because of, well, there's this whole drama. But effectively, they didn't have visa issues. I mean, they played all right, but honestly, it wasn't that great.
I mean, they did lose in the MDL major.
Exactly, they did lose in the MDL major qualifier to Gambit and to Team Spirit. So I actually think Gambit right now is the best CIS team, just because they work much better as a unit.
Well, shit, they didn't even make it out of the groups. That's horrendous.
Yeah, VP in trouble. That kind of it. I will say though, it's good that they got a restart, because I did think that if they ever wanted to make a change, it would probably have to be like a complete restart. I don't think you can have a team for that long and just build piece by piece. I think there's just, because you're gonna have like, the reason this team didn't work was because of something that was very deep rooted within the team, right? It wasn't just a one-off thing, because
it wasn't a strategic thing necessarily. Like, I think part of it was, but it wasn't like the main core problem. Main core problem was they were cowards.
They were, and also, and the fact that Ramses took over captainship, like these things, there's so many things that just came together that I think the team just needed to implode, which they did. Now they have good pieces. Don't get me wrong. I mean, just on paper, the team looks pretty strong, but at the same time, look, you're going from literally one of the best carries in the world, Ramses, to some kid who you're only on trial because you yourself are not really sure if you want to keep him.
Going to Resolution. Sure, brilliant player, but I've never seen him on offlane, have I?
Yeah.
And Save, I've never heard of this guy, but
yeah. So I think there's potential for them to. I mean, they're gonna rebuild. I don't think this is the same 5 people that you're gonna see at the end of the season under the VP flag banner. But I think the pieces are there. Getting Resolution is already pretty big, because Resolution on the at worst is a player that you can still put as carry and he's gonna carry. That's what Resolution does.
I'm just worried about Resolution, like just the way he fucking plays. Like I've kind of come to the conclusion, like, actually I don't know yet. This is for me. This is basically like Resolution's last run to see if he can actually play in a top tier team.
See if he can actually play something else other than just hard carry.
Yeah.
Because and I think he realized that too, and this is why he put himself on the 3 position, because he realized that the way he approaches the carry role is maybe too one-dimensional. Plus, he did play the 2 position before, so he knows there can be variety in his play. It's just whether or not he can get out of that mentality right now. And I think this is also one of the reasons why this team isn't really taking off just yet, because not only do you have a completely rebuilt team, but then you also have one key player who is switching roles. So I expected this team not to do well. I was actually maybe even a little bit surprised to see them qualify for the summit. So in that sense, I think VP again, they will need time, but I still don't think it's going to be the same 5 players at the end of the season.
All right, so let's see here. I actually don't know many of these, or almost most of these teams at the summit. Is there any of them that like you think legit can get to the next level?
At the summit,
Yeah,
um,
like as in like they can like place like top 8-ish at the major.
nah, not really. I will say that I think that what was it? NIP. Just want to say that the team is incredibly lackluster.
Yeah, I'm really
So
out
far
on that
anyway.
team. Like,
Quincy Crew. It will be interesting to see if they're actually allowed to play with Sumail ever.
I thought Sumail quit on that team, or was it the other way
No,
around?
so as far as I know, EG he's still in a contract with EG, and they don't allow him to play any LAN events
Oh, okay.
that EG is at, or any LAN events actually. I think so. And Hamburg was just a emergency because CCNC was in the hospital,
Oh,
so that's why he was allowed to play there. But generally speaking, he's not allowed to play LAN events as far as I know. So yeah, I mean, even if he was, let's be real, like him on the offlane position was never going to work out.
it was
I
never
don't think.
ever gonna work. Like, I was
Yeah,
very confused as to why they bothered with it, but
no. I actually think Ad Fitum could make another run. I know it's pretty much the same team that we had before. Actually, it is almost exactly the same team.
literally,
No, wait, it is actually the exact same team. Never
literally,
mind.
it's the same 5 Greeks.
Um, they so what made them strong last time was really the fact that they like this is the team that has the gameplay, the teamwork part down, right? Like on a team level, this team works 100%.
Mm-hmm.
What allowed them to work last time so well was because they've been grinding so much and they understood the meta like almost nobody else, because they've been grinding that same. Like I think there was a stat how they had the most games on that patch than any other team, like most officials.
Uh-huh.
Um, so this is a team that I think people need to look out for, just because they can make a run. I don't expect them to be a contender like long term. I just think that there's a one-off chance of them being like a top 6 team or whatever
Mm-hmm.
at a major. Other than that, maybe Pain, just because I think SA is always scary, and they have a couple of really strong players in HFN and Lillis. But other than that, I mean, I never have any expectations for the Chinese teams. Um,
As you should.
SA, Geek Fam, actually Geek Fam wasn't that bad. But I mean the other SEA teams are just better. So
Yeah.
no big expectations for the Summit teams.
All right, let's go to NDL. Let's see here. Actually, I'll go ahead and say I'll start this. Uh, Former Alliance, now Liquid. I think they're in a similar spot as Secret, except on a lower scale
And worse in my opinion.
and worse. So it's
Um,
like I basically
I,
like I'm gonna do a buy and sell. This is like a team you probably should sell on.
oh, I sold. I would have sold the moment they said that they wouldn't make a roster change.
Yeah, I sold them that exact moment.
Yeah. I respect everybody on that team, but in my opinion, there's no room to grow for them.
They're not Kuroki. Like I'll put it this way: they're not. If you're not Kuroki, I don't know why you're bothering trying. Like only Kuroki's done it.
And I think they almost overperformed towards the end of their season too.
Mm-hmm.
Last season, I think they should. I think they aren't that good of a team, and this is the. I think if it wasn't for Liquid buying them, maybe they would have made a change. I'm just speculating at this point, really. Maybe they
Yeah.
all really believe that they're the best team, or they can be one of the best teams in this composition, but I certainly don't think so. And I don't see this roster lasting for long. Well, maybe the only reason I think I could be wrong is because if they just decide to not make a change, but I don't see them performing well, especially once OG, Liquid, OG, Kuro, and Secret come back, because they're not even the best. Like, look, you were the 4th best team in Europe last season. right? Or fourth to fifth best team. Now the three teams that were in front of you are gone. Even the team that you were competing with, NIP, gone because they have a new roster. That at that point you have to be the best team in Europe, undoubtedly. There's no doubt that you have to be the best team in Europe for this particular major. And no, they get shit on by Alliance.
Yeah, Alliance is actually way better than they are.
Alliance is so much better than they are. No, well, not so much, but they are better than they are. And it just if you're again if you're Liquid, you have to just ask yourself how did we let this happen?
Yeah.
And yeah, so in that sense, or rather, if we're allowing this to happen, is this because Alliance happens to be this miraculously super god team, or is it just because we're just not good? And I think it's a kind of a mix of both. I don't think anybody could have expected Alliance to pop off as early as they did.
Mm-hmm.
I say that even though again, no competition in Europe. OG, Secret, and Liquid gone, and the teams that they did face were obviously not that fantastic. But I think they grew. They keep growing as a team. I think you can see them grow. Even what was it, ESL One Hamburg
Yeah.
that they were playing at. You can see them grow. Obviously, they didn't win, but that was because there's another team that's actually been growing. Gambit and TNC.
Yep.
Which I guess we could talk about them now too. Well, actually, let me actually still talk about Alliance for a second. Alliance, I want to say that I've been telling this for years, and I know nobody ever believed me or nobody cared. One of those two things, but Fata finally found his role. Maybe I should.
By
I want to say
literally
it's
crossing out every other rule possible.
pretty much. I think his biggest contribution to every team that he's ever been on, in terms of like, especially the teams that where he was at the top, right, was always his in-game calling and his calling in general. When Cloud9 was like this super team that almost always plays second, he was one of the shot callers in the team, and I think a lot of times people don't really give him that, or
Well, I can
yeah,
I can see
whatever.
why they didn't give it to him because like that Cloud9 before Fada was actually as good
Also
as
pretty
or
good.
better.
No, for
And
sure.
Fada himself was a better player than Sing Sing, so everybody thought, oh, he's
True.
just probably just a better mid
Oh, for sure,
laner.
and it's difficult to see who makes calls like unless you're actually sitting right behind him,
Yeah.
right? So it's like whatever. But I think he truly found his calling, pun intended. Hunskin, I mean, has in my opinion always been a very solid four at the very least, and I think the big thing why Alliance is working right now as a team is because Limp is actually sort of like he found himself in a team that where he works in. One of Limp's biggest problems has always been not throwing the game, or like even going out of his comfort zone and playing heroes that he's not good with. For example, Razor. I actually had this conversation with somebody who was on a team with him before, and it was a blessing. Oh no, never mind. It was actually well, I did also have that conversation, but I think a better example would be Kyle. Kyle during the cast literally was like, "Finally, Limp, you know how to play a Razor. It's been so long. I've been trying to teach you." Literally, Limp. That's the best example. His Razor was actually game carrying, and I think in previous iterations of any of his teams, Limp has been struggling to be sort of like that carry. Even though you give him that farm, right? You give him that farm, he takes the lead, and then he just throws away. And with Alliance, he's somewhat understood now, or I have to assume it's because of the leadership of Fat and Hunskin, that he does so much better than them. Because everybody else is pretty much performing as you kind of expect them to. I think 3-3 is, again, pretty good. Nico Baby, obviously, I think has shown a TI that was pretty promising. And he's pretty strong. And Limp is just, I think he's gotten significantly better now.
Yeah, makes sense. All right. Gambit, TNC. I think TNC's. I'll start with TNC. I think TNC is basically like a better version of what they were last year because I think KP is a better player than Cuckoo, and I think they kept a lot of the stuff Heen taught them. So
Did you see that what Heen tweeted? He
I was
said,
the
"I was the
problem,
problem."
and then some other guy, one of the players, like, please come back.
No, I agree with you. I think there's a lot of fundamentals that they kept obviously from the previous team, but I think it also helps that they have a super like a really good amount of like international experience in KP and March.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always something that people underestimate how valuable international experience is in these kind of teams. Because KP and even championship experience, KP has literally won titles.
Technically,
He's been
March
in
has two, as far as I.
well, yeah,
But obviously,
uh,
KP's been a much bigger
and
champion.
at, like on all the big stages, right? He's been in TI final. Like I think that kind of experience is invaluable for people like Gabby, Armel, Tims, not necessarily young players anymore, but just players who haven't ever gotten to that point and don't know how to deal with that kind of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But then also just, I mean, they're just also just really good players. Like that team
Yeah,
works right
basically
now.
they kept the three best players of that team: Gabby, Armel,
Yeah,
and Tims. So
yeah, pretty much.
what can
Gabby
you say?
Armel, Gabby Armel, a really great duo in terms of like course.
Mm-hmm.
It's really fun to watch.
Gambit,
Gambit, I
FNG
mean,
finally resurrected from the dead, um, doing L'Oreal commercials again, as far as I know.
it's kind of fun to see the fact that they because so this team was also kind of rebuilt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it didn't actually stay what they had like a almost completely different roster going into TI qualifiers. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was pretty much just FNG staying. Um, I would be lying if I said that I knew any of these players going
the
into
only
the
guy you know
season.
is
Well,
FNG.
well, and Shachlo, he's been playing on a couple of teams before that too, but the other ones were just like whatever. But I mean, I think FNG. This is like the perfect time for FNGs to shine. Like, take almost unknown players and just build them up because that's what got him into like the tier 1 era in the first place, right? Power Rangers. He was the captain of like almost unknown teams, unknown players, and he just built them into something bigger. And
And
because
then he
they
got
they
farmed.
had the yeah, and they got the respect. Well, then he got poached, and then he
And
got
then he
trashed.
restart. Yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah,
the MSL of Dota, kind
sounds
of.
about right.
So, pretty close to it. But yeah, I think I always thought he was like a solid leader. It's just like he never took the final step. But I don't know if that was even his fault because like all his players kept leaving him. So
It's not only just that. There's always been also the problem of players actually paying him the proper amount of respect. I remember
I
the
mean
Navi.
that's classic CIS, man. You just
Yeah,
gotta be a tyrant.
yeah. So I think, I mean, for now at least, they have the title or they hold the throne of like the sort of like the best team in CS, right? But
Yeah,
I guess that's kind of going to be interesting this season to see which team is actually going to emerge as the best team in CS, or if there's going to be more of a back and forth between a couple of teams. Because I mean, even though Gambit was good and strong in the qualifiers and even at ESL 1, I mean, they don't look unbeatable either. So I think Team Spirit, for example, is a
like
team that can also just take them.
I'll put it this way: they look like a placeholder team right now, or like they can maybe be top five right now, but like once the other teams start coming back, excluding maybe OG, because nobody knows when they'll come back. But like if LGD comes back, Secret, the Kuroki stack, they'll probably drop down.
Probably, probably.
Whereas like I'd say like TNC might be able to beat one of those. That's kind of like how I'd see it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
Fnatic, same as last year except worse.
Um, I wouldn't say worse.
I mean, Moon is back,
And 23 Savage is pretty good.
but Moon, like
But Moon.
Moon, like Moon is very limited. It's basically is my problem with him. I haven't seen his new games. Maybe he's changed, but like I look at this I look at the teams like Ice DJ top pretty fucking sick players. Jabs, you kind of know what he's gonna do now. Like he's not a liability, but he's not like great. So I guess the difference would be 23 Savage and Moon. And like I don't know 23 Savage. I just know Moon was very like he was a kind of like a worse version of CCNC because at least CCNC could play the late game. I could never say the same thing about Moon.
To me, Moon is like one of those players that if he's not in his comfort zone, you don't have a mid player.
And then the problem is like even if you get him in this comfort zone, and it's like a very limited comfort zone. It's not like he's
Yeah.
like the best mid player there is.
I remember there were a couple of games. So like Tinker is one of his heroes, right? They would pick him Tinker and he'd still just get trashed on. Like that's and I think this is the dangerous part. Like this is very dangerous in international competitions. If you give your mid player your comfort here and he still gets trashed on, like
You have a
you
problem.
you lose. Versus, for example, if you take OG, they give what they give what's his face? Oh my god,
Thompson.
I actually Thompson his Zeus in the finals, or even his Invoker in the finals. He gets trashed on, but they just don't care
Yeah.
because like Thompson isn't necessarily reliant on that either because he doesn't tilt really easily. Versus Moon is the kind of player if he gets trashed on early on, he's gonna tilt.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so
yeah, to me, I mean, this is just another team that's gonna do well in the SEA region.
and then
It's just gonna another ISSI's team. Let's be real.
yeah, basically an ice 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 team will go like this. An ice 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 team in SEA, because an ice 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 team in China is very different.
Yeah,
Because he could be the chosen one of China, because they need like a
they need offlaners.
They need him basically. But in SEA at least, this is basically what's going to go down. He'll always get out of SEA because he'll either be the first or second best team. I'm going to guess second best just because I think TNC is better at this point.
Yeah.
And from there, he will have a mediocre, like the team itself will be mediocre except for one tournament where we'll be like, oh my God, they're really good here. Maybe they can. Oh shit, no, they went back down. Fuck.
And that tournament will be enough to make them qualify for TI too.
Yes.
So they won't make any changes because they don't want to risk not losing the TI spot. And then they go to TI, they're incredibly lackluster. They're going to change 2 players and then
repeat the process.
Start all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds about right. I think we can skip team at whatever that other SEA team.
Let's see here. All right, what about the Chinese teams? I haven't talked about any of them.
Is Ehome back? Is the question. I want to point out.
I will never believe in faith beyond and innocence ever again.
Ever since Ehome has been back, I tweeted this out. Ever since Ehome has been back, what they reformed in 2016, I think, or 2015, I don't quite remember. Ever since, I've been a firm believer in every roster. Not because I'm blended by the name. I actually wasn't that big of a Dota 1 fan, so their legacy means shit to me, right? But because every time I look at the roster, I'm like, this is a good team. Like, I can get behind this team. Pretty much every time I get fooled because their team just ends up being shit.
No, one time it was good.
Well, one time it was good. They placed 6, and I was like, yay, and that was it.
Yeah, because the guy ran away.
Yeah. Oh no, that too. Yeah. By the way, that was the first time where I was like super hesitant to be behind the team, and then it was like really good. I was like, oh yeah.
That was the only time I was behind that team, and then like the guy ran away. I was like, oh, I'm out.
Yeah. So for now, I'm very again on paper. I mean, I don't know who 897 is, so let's be real. I have nothing to say about him. But the other ones, I mean, again on paper, like VT Faded looked pretty promising in the qualifiers too, and
I mean,
I don't know.
I remember Faith Beyond. He's supposed to be the chosen offlaner, but hasn't really done it for me for a while. But I think it's just because his team has been bad.
I still want to believe though.
Innocence. I still don't think he actually had an idea of how he created wings. I still don't think that. I think he did it by accident. That's what I think. Shao obviously a god, but it's not like he's playing.
It's like when you're cooking, you know, and you make something that turns out to be really good, but you never wrote down what you actually did. So you're like, fuck, and then you try to recreate it, and it just turns out worse and worse.
There's no way he's ever trying to recreate that team. That team was way too weird.
Yeah, that's also true. So Ehome for me, it might just be a placeholder team here too, just in case like
LGD comes
back. Because in my opinion, Team Aster looks so much more promising.
Whew. Aster on paper looks fucking fantastic.
Yeah, on paper at least.
But all right, it's just weird having Fate on 5. That's all.
I mean, if it works, it works.
I mean, because like I thought he was like the third best player in Vici, so it was like it just feels weird having him on 5. But on the other hand, like I think about Bobica and the way he plays, like I don't think he'd ever be a good 5 ever. So
no, I don't even think he knows how to be a 5.
Yeah,
like he's the kind of player who might queue as a 5, but then he'll just go Midas first item.
Yeah.
Like he's definitely one of those guys. Yeah. But and this is I think why Team Aster kind of works, because first off SECC, I mean he's just good.
He's been out for too long.
Well, he has been out for too long, but I think that might have given him a lot of. I think honestly, if you take a little bit of time off, it's almost better than just like being in a really bad team, for like staying in the competitive scene, but being in a really bad team. Because there's almost no way to get out of that mindset, right? It's almost like it's really difficult to get out of the mindset. Versus by having the time off, you get to reflect a little bit more on your own playstyle, actually.
Yeah, I was just gonna go more the fact that he basically took the Batman route. Like you know when they when Newbie lost the Liquid, right?
Yes.
The greatest shot of all time that Dota 2 has ever produced was when they panned to SECC and you just see him brooding as if he's fucking Bruce Wayne and his parents just died in front of him. He's like, I'm gonna come back, I swear to God.
So basically, this is Gotham now. Team Aster's Gotham.
Yeah, because basically in that
returned.
entire year he was missing, I thought in my mind I thought, is he like training under Raz Al Ghul right now? What the fuck's going
Holy
on?
shit. Maybe he did. Maybe he did.
And basically he's returned, so I'm going to ride that to the end. I love that man, and SECC is like the Dota Batman at this point.
He really is. Well, hopefully, anyway.
I want him to be. But we'll see.
But yeah, I actually also think one of the reasons why this team is so big is XSS and Boboka. Not necessarily them as individuals, but them as a duo. Having them as a duo. Just because they understand, like that 3-4 position duo is so important in any team. And
Yeah.
I mean,
like I'm just curious. Like I haven't seen them play in a while because I only watched like the top level stuff. So basically the majors. I'm curious because like I remember when they saw them last time, I thought they were exceptional but like limited. Like when they got their shit, they were fucking godlike. But
they were limited mostly because of the hero pool.
Yeah.
That was really the big limit to both of them, actually, to both players individually.
But then like the reason like I just haven't given up hope is because like a bunch of the teams they've had in the meantime just weren't complete teams. Like if you don't have if you don't have like a relatively complete team, you just can't get that far no matter what you have. So we'll see.
That's also true. Yeah.
We will see if they've learned anything since. What about this Vici roster then?
Well, I mean,
basically the same as last year except PYW.
No. You don't understand. Paparazzi found the solution to his success. He just has to rename himself.
I thought
it can't be the Paparazzi Ori curse if Paparazzi technically doesn't exist anymore.
That doesn't. You know what? Somebody told me an anecdote about Forrest, the CS:GO player, where like he would change the way he spelled his name every time he lost, and then like the joke was like he basically changed his name a billion times in CS:GO because he started losing a shit ton. Like, is that what's gonna happen to yours now?
Probably. It actually. So there was actually the Ehom player, and that's pretty much what he did.
Okay.
He went from N to ZYF to, oh my god, I don't even know all of that. Let me see. And ZYF. Liquipedia doesn't even have all of his names. That's how often he changed them.
Fuck.
So yeah, Never End. Yeah, there's I don't know. There's so many names. So yeah, maybe every time he just like every season he's just gonna like Swindle Melons. He went from Swindle Melons to Swindles to Melons to Kyle.
I think he probably should have just stuck with Kyle the entire time because it's easier to type for me. But
I agree. I so much agree.
But hey, it's too late now. Like he did it right when I didn't need him to do it anymore. So.
Well, he's definitely sticking to Kyle just now.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. It's good for his branding. So yeah, but yeah, basically like when I heard the roster, I was like, I just looked at the names. I didn't even look at the picture. I was like, oh my god, they finally did it. In my mind, here's what I thought: they finally did it. They split up the Paparazzi and Ori duo. This is fucking crazy, but it makes a lot of sense because it wasn't. I don't think you keep running that fucking duo forever. It's like, and then somebody corrected me. It's like, pretty sure he just changed his name. It's like, oh god damn it. And here we are.
Yep. Here we are.
And that's kind of how I feel about Vici. And I think Vici's in a similar situation to PSG LGD, just not necessarily as bad. But we'll see.
So on theory, I think there's more room for them to grow, just because I think the duo of Ori and Paparazzi still has to, on paper, right? They still haven't actually unleashed their full potential.
Like I think what's funny about that is basically I think Paparazzi is because I think he's the best offlaner. I mean the best carry, straight up.
Well, in China.
What
do you think?
I think the world.
All right.
Who's better than him?
Well, that's a fair point.
Like straight up, because we can't count Anna obviously because he's only played one tournament and he's not coming back.
Oof, don't let the OG fanboys hear that.
Okay, we'll see Anna play him. Oh wait, no, he's not at this major. you don't get to win duels you don't show up to. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's actually a really good point. No, that's a good point. And Paparazzi definitely has made a case, especially in the last season, for that too.
Yeah, I think basically at the second half of the year he was the best carry. So there you go. Ori's, I guess the only guy who's that could technically go up is Ori, and I think he's already the best. Mid-laner in China.
My problem is that, I don't think they showcase both of those at the same time
Yeah,
at any
I
given
mean it's
moment.
pretty hard for
It is
them.
pretty hard. It is. I mean, it's pretty hard for anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody. Like there's a reason why nobody has figured out how to make the best, almost like two best players on their both on their respective positions, work at the same time. I'd argue the only time we've really seen the closest where we had like two really strong, uh, two and one positions work at the same time was the secret at TI5.
I was about to say
Like
DK,
DK, actually DK is a really good example too.
but like DK was
And
so freaky. Like
DK was so freaky where it was kind of like all five positions were almost the best players on their position.
they were basically the closest I ever saw. Like I think they're actually
Yeah.
like
No,
people
that's
talk about
a
the secret lineup, but I think they were actually the closest.
no, that's actually a good point. They were the
But
closest.
they were so extreme because like nobody realizes this now, I guess. But basically, they can only do that because like you remember that photo of like the Wings players sitting behind
Yes.
Burning and DK.
Yes.
That's kind of there is. I don't think they in any way learned anything from like DK directly, but there is a kind of a weird lineage there where like technically speaking, that DK could have played the wing style if they understood what the fuck the wing style was supposed to be, because they had so much versatility across like their three main cores.
I mean, to a degree, they almost kind of did anyway,
It
right?
was like a prototype, but
Yeah.
I think they were actually kind of limited in the fact that they were all too skilled. Like basically, like when I rewatched all their games recently, and like basically like the reason they couldn't do the wing style was because they were too skilled as players. So like they kept winning
Actually,
the lane, and because they kept winning the lane, they're like, let's just keep doing this, and then that eventually became their style. Whereas like wings, they weren't good enough to do that, and because they couldn't do that, like basically like it kind of exploded into a different direction. So
I know this is. I know we're like on a complete off tangent here, but I always wonder, um, if that team even could have lasted longer than it did ever.
I
Because I think there's a reason why a lot of these pieces never tried to play again together.
mhm. I don't think that DK couldn't have, because I don't think Mushi would stay at that level. He's never been at that level again, basically.
yeah, that's definitely a
Would
good point.
I'm not sure if you could say the same thing about Lanham or MMY, because I think that those two just
So
straight up lost motivation. But in Ice and Burning's case, I think they could have.
yeah, so actually, actually think one of the big reasons why this team was as good as it was because of MMI and Lunim. I think that support duo, in retrospect, was probably one of the best support duos we've ever had in Dota, in my opinion, because they understood Dota and like such like not only did they understand Dota on such a big level, but the things that they did for the rest of the three, it almost seemed like crazy the fact that it's just two players, like the way the way they secured the resources, but also the way they just like did things around the map to help them pretty much in every lane.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember like Ilanam playing goddamn support Juggernaut, right? Just for the healing word or
Yeah,
spin, I guess.
one of them played like support Alchemist. I
Yeah.
forget which one. Like they always did weird shit like that.
They did weird shit because they're actually in nature, they're actually pretty creative players. Lanem, still a very creative and actually really good, like individual mechanically skilled player too, despite his age. And I think MMY was probably one of the most underrated supports in Dota, in Dota 2.
I thought it was exceptional at that point, but like my problem with MMI is like he's basically kind of given it up, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's the problem with a lot of the Chinese pros actually, because they could have probably gone down in the history books if they just didn't lose motivation because of money,
Yeah.
or if they, I mean, not only just maybe not necessarily lose motivation, but just sort of like when if their life hadn't shifted.
Mm-hmm.
Because and I think this is not really spoken often enough. Also, when we compare the Chinese scene with other scenes, is that there's just such a big cultural difference between China and the West that like a lot of these players. I mean, Puppy is what 28, 29 or something.
Yeah.
And he's still competing. All the Chinese players at his age, they all have families. I mean, Puppy also has a family, right? But like, it's different. All right, maybe Puppy's not the best example. Kuroki.
Mm-hmm.
Kuroki's literally single, just wants to play Dota, wants to grind. He could probably go for another like what 7 years.
Yeah.
Like at that time, Hao has like his third kid or something. You know.
Oh man, how another wasted talent.
Exactly.
He could have been the
How
goat.
Moo, not Moo.
Oh,
Oh, Moo,
Moo is
Moo, yeah,
super
Moo.
depressing too. Moo's actually more depressing to me than How,
I
because
mean,
at least like
the,
I saw more
the
of How than
entire
I saw
newbie
Moo.
roster,
Yeah.
the entire newbie roster that actually just decided to, well, we just became millionaires. Bye bye. The entire newbie roster actually could have probably gone for like another 2 or 3 years, like individually, and some of them tried to. Well, but even at that point, you have to wonder: is the motivation still really there? You know,
I
especially with
mean,
all
the
the
year
streaming
after they
money.
basically played RPGs, right? So it was like
Yeah,
I don't know if they actually really truly tried to.
yeah. So anyway,
Yeah, just
just to
reminiscing
get,
about the good old days of Chinese Dota.
yeah, just to get back to Vici Gaming. Team good. Probably gonna be the second, like a top two team in China for this
I,
entire season.
yeah, like I think they might be the best because I don't really believe it. Like it's hard to know how Aster's going to shape up basically, and LGD maybe they just have their number against Vici's number, so who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm just having as a top two for now.
Yeah,
Odds are there's just some really random Chinese team through the minute in the middle of the season that just pops out and just
yeah.
beats
Maybe
everybody.
maybe Neo, maybe Paparazzi Junior shows up, just ruins them the online call. I will never forgive Paparazzi, by the way, for just doing that for like an entire year,
Yeah.
just like ruining other teams for to bomb out and land. Like, come on, man.
The entire score was actually hilarious. The ultimate, what'd you call them at the time? Super onliners or
Yeah,
something?
the super onliners. Like I had never seen. They are the most online team I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, that's what you keep calling them. It's the most online team you've ever seen. Yeah. Um oh, what a show. I guess this leaves NA Dota.
There's only one team I want to talk. Actually, I guess we may as well talk about two teams.
Yeah.
Unless you know something about J Storm, I don't. But basically,
I don't care about J Storm.
EG, what do you think of this weird ass lineup? Because
Look,
I think it's weird.
it's weird, but NA is so barren. You're always gonna be first with this lineup. Like NA is so struggling to find actual good players and like disciplined players too that can stick it out, that don't make a roster change every 2 minutes. That this team is always going to be the best NA team, in my opinion. I don't think anybody's going to overtake them. Maybe the Quincy crew if they get their shit together and don't have Sumail on the third position.
But that's not going to happen because EG
That's not
owns
going to happen.
Sumail's
Well,
contract. Like that's
yeah.
ridiculous.
So on that end, I mean, this team is. I mean, sure, maybe they place third or second again. I just don't see them winning a title. I'm already betting right now they're not going to win the title as this lineup in this season.
All right.
And by title, I mean actual DPC circuit title. Like I don't care. Well, maybe minor, but I don't care about minors.
Yeah, neither do I. I will say it's kind of interesting that I don't know. It's just so fucking weird putting Arteezy, Abed, and Ramses together. Like I could see like two of those three, but not all three.
Yeah, it's incredibly greedy. It's like, hey, have you heard about gold?
What's this gold you speak of? Like what's weird is like I think this team would make a lot more sense if S4 was the offlaner. But what do you think of that? I guess. Do you think it was right to kick S4?
Was it them kicking them, or was it him leaving?
Oh, was it him leaving? It might have just been him.
I don't know.
Leaving.
I don't know. I legitimately don't know. So
okay, I guess that's different because like S4 is like literally the guy who would leave.
Yeah.
So
either way, I think the team might just change their playstyle significantly, and I think this is why S4 might not have worked because S4 is like S4 is not, to me, S4 is not really a player that just follows somebody else's like instructions, right?
Yeah, but who's leading here? Like,
I think it's Fly and Arteezy. Actually, it might be Fly and Ramses.
No, like here's the problem. I think there's like 4 leaders here.
Oh, there are.
Arteezy, Ramses, Crit, Fly. Like, who the fuck is leading?
Yeah. I think it might be Ramses. I don't think he can convince Ramses after captaining VP for like 2 years to not be captain for this team. Yeah. And to me, I mean, Arteezy has given up on captain. I mean, Arteezy has really never really taken on the captain role, right? He's never.
No, like he's not a captain role, but like he wants to play a certain way.
Yeah, he wants to play a certain way, but he's stepped aside often enough for me to be convinced.
Yeah, that's true. Like he did step aside a lot during the Sumail Arteezy period, so I'll give him that.
So I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think when I look at this team, for me, the person that has to step up the most, in my opinion, is actually going to be Arteezy. Because he has to be the most flexible player in this lineup, in my opinion.
He has to be Neo Fear.
Pretty much. In my opinion, he has to be, because he has to play whatever the team needs him to. I don't think they can draft around him. I think they have to draft around Abed.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously
probably Ramses, because like we don't know how Ramses is going to turn out as an offlaner. He might just be limited at the beginning. What's funny is those like if you asked me like last year who EG should build around, if you were going to build around, if you had a choice between Arteezy and Sumail, I'd say Arteezy, because he was way better than Sumail was last year. But like having him shift basically to Neo Fear is just so weird because that wasn't what he did last year.
It really wasn't. But yeah, just I mean, I watched a couple of their games in the qualifiers, and I mean, it's still difficult to gauge a team's strength though, because like playing against an A, it's like they don't even have to put in any effort. Let's be real.
No,
the only effort they really
they
had
could
to
literally
was,
outskill everybody. It's not.
yeah, they had to beat Quincy Crew, but Quincy Crew again, it was a mess in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The way they played was a mess. And I mean, yeah, I just don't really see this EG lineup just yet. I think the first test will be at the Indian Major, and then we can really see the strength and the weaknesses of this lineup. For now, again, I think RTZ has to be the key part here in that lineup, because he has to be the one that has to be the most flexible.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's gonna how it's gonna go down, but we'll see. Like, who knows? All right, Fighting Pandas, and the only reason I'm talking about this is because it happens to have the most interesting. I'll go ahead and say I think he's the most interesting Dota player to have ever existed.
Oh, absolutely.
Eternal
I don't think
Envy.
anybody would disagree with that. I will say, Fighting Pandas, incredibly hilarious. How one thing I've always found hilarious is how AY and Paladai keep coming back to Eternal Envy.
It's like the worst relationship of their lives, but they can't get enough of it. I don't get it.
No, I actually think one of the reasons why AY especially keeps coming back to Eternal Envy is because AY, at the height of his career, effectively, because all right, maybe not at the height of his career, right? Well, but to a degree at the height of his career, because the reason why I think the height of his career was actually not that EG win, and this is a stupid argument to make because obviously winning TI is actually the height of pretty much everybody's career. But I think the only reason he worked in that EG lineup was because of that particular patch and the particular way his hero pool worked out at the time. I think that patch really, really favored his particular playstyle, and that's why he worked. Versus before that, Eternal Envy made him work despite the patch not necessarily being like super, super favorable towards him. But that particular patch was really favorable towards 4 positions. The way he played the greedy position 4 that could just like form a static lane, right, and just push it out.
Yeah.
That kind of play style, that was excellent for him. That really worked out. He had a particular hero pool that was really, really strong at the time too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was really why AY worked. But in my opinion, he was a better player when he was with Cloud9 and Eternal Envy. And I think this is one of the reasons why he likes playing with him. A, because he understands Eternal Envy. There was actually a funny video where he basically admits to being the translator for Eternal Envy too. He has to convey Eternal Envy's ideas to the rest of the team. And I think this is why Eternal Envy likes playing with AY too. Because AY
is the only guy who can output his input.
Pretty much. And then AY, I think he understands that he works best with Eternal Envy because their playstyles match up, and Eternal Envy allows AY to work. So that, and then I'm not sure if he works as a 5 position. I'll be honest. I think AY would have to put a lot of work into it. But in general, I think this team is actually not that bad for NA purposes. Internationally speaking, I think there's a lot of limitations in this lineup, obviously. But internationally speaking, in the region speaking, I think this could be like a second best team here.
What's weird about, well, basically, Eternal Envy has basically created the roster I thought he should have tried after he got kicked out. I don't know if you want to say kicked out, but basically he was phased out of like the tier 1 teams. Like, yeah, maybe that's a good way to say it, because I think if you look at Eternal Envy's best periods, outside of the secret roster, basically, his best teams were always the weird ones. And what I mean by the weird ones, as in like they were teams where like he made the most out of them in weird ways. And it's also why I think like he always worked best with Pylai Dies, because Pylai Die, he might be hailed as like one of the best 5s, but like that's only because he happened to work with Eternal Envy. I think like I don't think either of them would have been as successful without each other.
Yeah. And I think this is also one of the reasons why let me put it this way. One of the things that also need to happen for him to thrive is also him building his own team. Because remember when he joined Beast Coast, or not Beast Coast, actually Beast Coast, yeah, that IX Mike team.
Mm-hmm.
And when he kicked what's his face, Gunner.
Yeah.
I mean, he joined a pre-formed team, and that didn't work out. And he's joined a couple of these pre-formed teams. I think he really needs to build these teams, like as you mentioned, these rosters that almost like these wacky rosters. Some of them players that are either washed up or like almost nobody else counts on, right? So I think he thrives in these kind of scenarios. And I mean, Envy, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things to criticize Envy for, and
Plenty.
he's tried a lot of things that just makes him look stupid, and quite frankly, a lot of things that just were straight up stupid.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of good ideas that he has too, and there's a lot of good qualities he brings to the table. So
Like,
again, I think for NA purposes, this team might just be the second best team in NA.
well, here's the thing. I'll end up with this. The reason Internal Envy is the most interesting player, like outside of the out of game shenanigans, like if you don't want to count that, that's fine. He'd still be the most interesting player in game because he's like the guy most liable to do the crazy shit because he thinks there's something in there.
Yeah.
Like he's the only one. He's like he has the most extreme version of that, and that lets him do shit like nobody else can do, but also lets him do shit that'll make him look disastrously like bad. Like it's not. I don't think it's a coincidence that he's the one that spawned the Eternal Envy like 50-50 meme. Like nobody else. Like this meme would not exist if he didn't exist in the world. Basically, that's just
Pretty
who he
much.
is. So that's also why he's like that's also why he's kind of still worth following, even like in lower tier teams. All right, I think that covers it for all the Dota 2 stuff. Is there any other team you
Yeah.
want to talk about, or should we move on?
No, I think Dota is well. I think Dota is pretty much covered. I mean, there's just not much happening with the teams pulling out, and obviously the major still has to come, even the minors. So, yeah, I'm good to go with CS.
All right, so let's talk about CS. Been a while. A few tournaments have come past. All right, let's start with your team, Complexity.
Complexity.
All right,
Where do you want to begin?
where to begin? Basically, where to be? Basically, you obviously can't confirm any of the reported roster moves. So I'll say this: if they were true, it sounds like Complexity is creating a type of mouse,
Yeah. I mean,
but
if
they
the
have to pay
rumors
out
were
of the
true.
nose because they happen to live in Texas. So, right?
Well, if the rumors were true,
If
yeah.
the rumors were true, and if Lexi B did, in fact, reject a $1 million bid and stuff like that, right? But basically,
What would you?
would I if I was
Yeah.
Lexi B?
Yeah.
Uh, like it depends on who else is coming. If I could get if I could get MBK to come with me, I'd do it. Or if I could get Blame F to do it, maybe I'd do it. Like that. Like basically, Alexi B though was Finnish, so that's something different from him and me, right? Because the Finns love Finland, just like the Swedes love Sweden.
Yeah, that's true.
It's actually like what's funny about European. Actually, I don't know if you want to say Europeans in general because I haven't been to all the countries, but the ones I've noticed in esports is like their value of money is fundamentally different from Americans, and so because of that, you have to give money alone isn't a strong enough inducement to leave everything else behind. Whereas in America, that's sort of the case. And there's a fundamental reason why that's the case in America. It's part of the mythology that's been built into the fucking Constitution and stuff. But because of all that, like I think I think in Alexi B's case, if you wanted to get him, you needed to come in with like a prepackaged plan. Like we'll get MBK over, we'll get Blame F over, we'll get this and that and the other thing, right?
I think it's actually even like I agree with you by the way on that assessment and versus like Europe versus America. I think it's particularly worse for the Nordic people, Swedish and the Finnish, and maybe even not necessarily Danish actually, but I think the Swedish and the Norwegian and Finnish people they all live in such a weird culture
They all
in
love
a way.
comfort. It's
They all
weird.
they really need their own comfort, and like they're really patriotic in that sense too, and like they're really chill, and they're almost like Nah, dude, I don't need money as long as I have just my like fireplace and like oh, this actually sounds kind of racist. No, but like really, they actually all live very simple lives, right? They don't need like the luxury. I'm not saying that he doesn't that he's that kind of person, but I think like from the Finnish people that I've met, they live the most basic lives and they're totally happy with them. They wouldn't want anything else in the world,
Yeah,
really.
that's
So,
absolutely fine. I'm just saying like the 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 reason you go to complexity is for like the life changing money
oh yeah,
basically.
true,
Because
true.
basically, if you do that right, you're ensuring you're not just ensuring your future for like the next few years, which is basically what I imagine LXCB is getting for the OG. You could ensure your future for like the next 10 years. Pretty
Yeah,
sick, right?
if the rumored numbers are right.
Right, or however long it could go. But
Yeah,
even outside of that, like basically, what I like about complexity basically is like Jason like basically backed up all the words he was saying. That's basically like you can read my entire article about it. I went through the entire thing. How you guys got locked in major purgatory for whatever reason. We talked
we
about that
did,
before in the previous
we
episode.
did.
Basically, like major purgatory is like hell, and you really cannot fall into that trap because if you fall into that trap, like here's the problem with going to major purgatory is you can always build a roster that's has a good enough chance to stay in the major, but because you're always going by the 3 out of 5 rule or maybe 2 out of 5 rule, you will never get the player base necessary to attract other players, and that's like the big in CS:GO at least that's the big way to get it to go up is you need the big name players.
Yeah, I agree, and I think in hindsight, if you know, there, I mean, Jason Lake made no wasn't really shy about it, but there were talks with Tarek at some point.
Yeah,
Just to clarify, I was never part of these talks. I don't even know what happened in those talks. I didn't even know these talks happened until he actually made it public, because I'm not involved in the CS process at all,
yeah, and
or
then
any
Tarek
roster
basically
process for
said,
that.
"Don't worry about it. I'm gonna join EG and kick out Daps." I
Yeah.
mean, what?
Well, no, technically he didn't kick out Dabs. Well, he did at the end, but like
It,
you know.
yeah, eventually,
Anyway, I'm just saying, like, I think that conversation in my head at least probably goes different if if we hadn't been in major purgatory at that point or major hell at that point,
yeah, because
because that that was always going to be a conversation. Well, these ex players are definitely staying, but you could replace this dude. Like, is that really the kind of roster you want to join, right? Versus NRG, for example, who wasn't necessarily stuck in major hell, but rather had all the opportunities to just rebuild completely
yeah, if they wanted to, and they already
if
had
they
all the
wanted
great
to.
players too. So it's
Yeah,
like, so I thought it was always gonna be like a bad. It's just a bad proposition to stay in major hell because I think there's only two ways to get out of major hell. It's either go the DAPS route, and guess what? There's only DAPS who can do it. MSL who can do it. Like I saw Stanislaw in complexity, he couldn't do it.
by the way, I think it goes to show that all the teams that have escaped major hell by forcibly being removed out of the major at the end of their major hell cycle, which is inevitably going to happen to every team stuck in major hell, I'd say they've improved.
Yeah,
I mean, if you look at this Fnatic roster right now, if you look at this NIP roster now, like these teams, they wait. Actually, I'm not sure if NIP is NIP
NIP was
qualified.
certainly a major hell at some point, but
Yeah,
I think they got kicked out eventually, and then they came it back because of the major hell.
yeah. Anyway, Fnatic looks revitalized. Would this have happened if they had stayed with the major and had to keep 3 people? Maybe, but
I mean, I'll
unlikely.
put it this way: if they don't fail a major, I'm gonna go ahead and guess they keep exist, and exist is not as good as golden, straight up.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
they would definitely not be as good. I'll
So
say
yeah,
that.
I think it's only healthy to get out of it, and I mean rather sooner than later. But I mean, I'm certainly glad we're out of it. Like it's kind of weird to be happy to not be part of the next major, or well, it's not decided that we're not part of the next major, right? We can still qualify through the
Yeah,
minor.
you're gonna have to go
But it's kind of
down the hard way, basically.
it's kind of cool, and because I mean, we are putting a lot of effort into building the best possible team we can.
And I think it actually worked out because basically config is can be fucking amazing.
All right, let's discuss this complexity team as if these rumors were true. All right, let's pretend these rumors are true.
So
How
Obo,
do you feel about
Rush, config, blame, F, poison.
yeah? How do you feel about this team?
I actually think Blame F is on the rise. Actually, I thought he was a pretty good choice for a first pickup if you couldn't get Alexi B because I think he is a. I think he basically the way Heroic ran. I thought it was a combination of Blame F and Peacemaker. And Peacemaker probably, like, for all the criticism he gets, I'm pretty sure he does know his CS shit. And if he does know that, then Blame F on some level must have absorbed that. And so he's not only a decent, at least going to be a decent in-game leader. In terms of fragging, he was actually like really good on that heroic lineup. And that heroic lineup consistently pulled out upsets. And if we follow your rule, which I think is actually correct, which is like, if you look at an upset team, 1 to 2 of those guys is gonna go on to be fucking good. And I think Blame F was certainly the guy, like had the highest probability to go on to the next level. So good choice there. Obo, I actually think you probably should have kept him among the 5 complexity players, just because I think he had the highest potential to grow. He seemed pretty fucking sick for a kid who just showed up at his first LAN, all things considered.
Not even just his first LAN too, like his like at EPL, like the first stage.
Yeah.
He was actually our best player, I think.
Yeah.
Right after, or he just with Blame F. So yeah, really impressive kid actually.
Rush is kind of an iffy one to me, but I will give, like, I wrote this in an article straight up. Like, I gave him the caveat, the fact that like Cloud9 wasn't playing, didn't have a CS:GO team. They actually had the world's largest game of musical chairs, world's most expensive game too. And so if you have that, then I can actually forgive a guy for not being that good during that period.
I don't know about most expensive anymore. I mean, FaZe playing musical chairs.
FaZe is more expensive at this point, but yes. But Cloud9 certainly had more people coming in and out of those chairs. Give them that.
That's true.
But in his case, like my problem with him is like Rush. That is like, yeah, I'll give him the caveat. But on the other hand, I did see like Flusha turned around his career during Cloud9. Kiyoshima was still sick during that period. Automatic was fucking amazing during that period. So it was like, in comparison to them, I was like, what was really going on, Rush? But I will give him a benefit of the doubt. And the thing about Rush is like his value, the value of his pickup, is also dependent on the value of who else he could get at the time, right? So if that was the best possible choice, like I don't know what all the choices were, like fair enough, and you can still remove him later on, but like you're gonna need a few bangers to make that up, and that's where the last few changes have been pretty good.
Just quickly to add to Rush, I heard Blame F talk about that, and I think he's really happy with Rush just because Rush is the kind of guy who's just not too like he's not too good for anything. Like he will always do whatever's needed by the team.
He's a soldier. He's always been a soldier.
Yeah,
that's
also. I think this is something that, for example, made Def really valuable in the previous teams as well. And this is one of the reasons why Cloud9 actually tried to was approaching him too, because you really need these kind of players that just like do everything that the team needs, really. Like somebody that doesn't have to be the spotlight, right? And he's perfectly fine not being the spotlight even. I think one of the best examples in that regard, in my opinion, is Stuko. Yeah.
The classical one, Zipnix.
Yeah. So
Zipnix actually probably breaks the bell curve on that.
But. Yeah, he kind of does, but you know. So on that end, I mean, I see the concerns regarding Russia, absolutely, and I mean, I think he himself would probably agree to a lot of like the things that people have said, or at least to the valid criticism. But I mean, you really need those kind of team players.
You do. Here's my problem with that. Like, actually, no, I won't say problem. Like, here's the concern I'll have is like, they can take you so far, but like at some point they will have to like. There's only a limit you can take so far depending on what level you're trying to get to.
Right? No, that's
so if you're trying to build a juggernaut, eventually there's going to come a point where if he doesn't step up to previous Rush, and I mean like either version, so Cloud9 major winning version, because that's like way more of the supportive version, because that one he was way more passive and stuff, or you're getting the entry fragger optic version of Rush. Like if he doesn't reach that level, then you're going to have to eventually move on if he doesn't get back to there. But for now, it's fine, right? Because it's also dependent on what level you're at. And I will say, like, these choices are also dependent on like how you evaluate them is also dependent on the value of how much money you're spending into it. And I obviously don't know that, so that's why I haven't brought that into consideration. But beyond that, like go to the last ones. Config, I think Config, even in his worst moments, his mechanics are fucking amazing. and Thorne basically wrote that entire article saying like he's literally the most talented Danish player every Danish player has ever played with.
Yep.
Right.
I really was actually happy with his reaction to that too, configs that is,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it takes a really it's it's not easy to just admit straight up that you're literally wasted your talent effectively, or that you never lived up to the potential. At least while you're still competing, and while you may or may not be under the illusion that you're still really fucking awesome.
I mean, some people never do. Like,
well, yeah.
So I was like, that's I thought that was surprising because I feel like most people could take that as a personal attack, but it's clearly just like a place like config, you could be way greater than this. Like, and he took it like that way.
Exactly. Actually, that's actually especially because it came from Thorin, and a lot of people think that everything that Thorin says is just a straight up attack, where even though it isn't. So yeah, I was actually I also was a little bit surprised because I've always perceived config to be a little bit different in terms of like as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even a little bit cocky on that end. I mean, a little bit is actually.
I mean, he's like one of the cockier CS:GO players, or was
sure,
before reality beat him down.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, in terms of raw talent, I think he's fantastic. But yeah, like you said,
and then my favorite pickup is probably Poison because I think it's like the funniest. It's like basically report comes out. Audrey looking to target Poison after Jumpy gets connected to VAC ban. Next day, Poison joining Complexity. I just thought that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that's actually something people should consider doing, other orgs, which is if you don't actually have good scouting, just wait for that report to come out and then go steal somebody else's player.
To be fair,
well, it's not a steal, but like basically bid for that player because no matter what you think about Alexi B or NBK, those guys know fucking talent.
So how should I have to word this carefully? Let's say the report is true and we did approach Poison. Doesn't necessarily have to mean we only approached him after that report was made regarding his acquisition with OG. But you're not wrong though. You're not wrong. I do think it would be stupid not to look at players that other people are interested in. Like, right? Like, there has to be a reason why other good players are interested in working with them.
Like think about it this way, right? If you could literally go back and like if you just think about, all right, let's go back in time. Let's go to I don't know if you were watching CS:GO back then because I wasn't, but basically there was a point LGB had Olaf, Crims, Dennis, and Twist.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, and at that point, Fnatic realized this Olaf and Crims, this Olaf guy's fucking amazing. Let's go get him. They got Olaf. NIP could have got Olaf, but they didn't. Right? And if they had followed this like potential like schema of mine, like, if they're getting him, we may as well get him because like Olaf was like obviously going to be the next one, right? And they probably could have got him at the time, but they didn't. And what's funny about that is like this is like a tangent, but basically they got a 2-for-1 deal. Fnatic did, because Fnatic didn't want Crims, but Olaf told them he was the best team player he'd ever played with, and they also took Crims, and then it turned out like they got the package.
Was but the package,
like literally the package.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's actually it's actually pretty funny because this actually happens in regular sports all the time. Like people will literally scout other team scouts because they need to know. All right, wait, they're interested in that player. Maybe we should be interested in that player too. And there's literally been fake scouts planted at certain games just to fake interest in certain play. I don't know. That's like in regular sports, there's all these mind games already going on. I'm just waiting for
like literally if you want a good NA scout, here's what you do: is you have a guy stock Daps, and then you're done. Think about this for a second. Think about what Daps has done in his entire fucking career for a moment. He got a Liege, he got Naf, he got Rush, he got Stanislaw, he got Mixwell, he got Cirque, he got Breezy, and he got Ethan. Like, what the fuck is this?
NA Dota literally built on... Well, wait. Are we sure it was all Dabs, or wasn't it everything just FNS from the get-go?
Actually, I'm pretty sure Ethan was FNS, but yes. listen, man, just scout the both of them. Obviously, FNS is harder to scout because he's like the greatest mastermind of the 21st century. But yeah, just scout those guys. They know
No,
they know what's up.
and I mean, when Dabs was available, I was actually surprised that like
Nobody got him.
that nobody got him. And then was Cloud9 I was like, it's whatever. Because like you have to realize if he's built these super teams like with NA scraps, literally, because NA CS isn't exactly a rich land of like super talent. I feel like you kind of really want him, even if it's like you don't even have to like, yeah, sure, hire him as a player, but maybe even like ask him if he wants to like do more than that, you know?
Be a scout, be a coach,
Yeah.
be one of those things. But like, what's funny is like I think people do have like a wrong impression of Daps now, as in like he isn't a Kerrigan, and what I mean by that is like he isn't gonna turn these guys from nothing to gods overnight. It takes him like 1-2 years, but when he gets to that final point, it's like Jesus Christ, this is a good team.
And I'd almost argue that Daps also in a sense doesn't necessarily even form them into super goods, but he sees people that have the talent to be those people in the first place.
Yeah.
Whereas Kerrigan, I think Kerrigan always gets the best out of all the players he has.
Yeah, he always
like
does.
he does. It doesn't even matter who the players. He just gets the best out of them. Whereas Daps is like carefully like, all right, this guy is actually super good. He should be a tier 1 player. Let's make him a tier 1 player. And like you said, yeah, it takes him a year or maybe a year and a half, maybe even 2, but he gets there.
Yeah, and the thing about Daps is like he follows the like Daigo method. I don't know if you've ever read Daigo's book, but basically he explains like the career arc of how you should grow as a player. And basically he says in the first 2 to 3 years, you shouldn't be focused on what your style is as a player. You should be focused on your fundamentals and basics. You should be learning the game. That's basically what Daps does with a bunch of these star players that eventually become stars. And once they learn that structure, they're like, okay, now Stanislaw, you take over, and then they go fucking wild.
It's incredible how on a tier 1 level there's still so many teams that mess up the easiest, like the most basic things, smokes, flashes. Like these things should not happen. Like if a random matchmaking dude can throw a perfect CT smoke on Dust 2 every time, you better be able to do that too.
Yeah. And
but yeah,
I will say though, like it was partly mentality with these particular EG players, just because they were straight up beating all the same teams. They just couldn't do it in the semifinals and finals. Yeah. So.
And they've now taken it to the next level.
Yeah.
It's really incredible that they're now the number 1 team, because honestly it looked like halfway through there, like a couple of weeks ago, as if maybe they're like not even a couple of weeks ago, actually just maybe like 2 weeks ago, because there's like at EPL for example, they started losing maps to like teams they shouldn't have. Like they started losing maps to us, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of looked a little bit shaky there, but now they kind of they recovered, by the way, in my opinion, because of a great format at Starlighter.
Yeah.
Not sure if you want to talk about that, but like that format really helps teams
grow.
Like imagine if that had ended after NAP beat EG. Imagine if their tournament run just ends there.
That'd be horrendous.
Like we'd be looking at a completely different story.
Yeah. And I want to point out, like basically the finals team played 3 times more maps than guys at Blast who won that Blast. So there you go. Like 3 times as many.
I'm so glad that Starlighters coming into this. I mean, they've done this for a while now, right? But
yeah,
they're bringing almost like this Dota kind of like mentality to the CS scene. Like
this one's extreme. Like this one basically combined them, because it's like it combined the two.
This one was really extreme. I've never seen such an extensive bracket, even in Dota.
Like I think Dota
kind of, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Dota should copy this, like one of the majors, but they won't do it obviously, but they could.
They won't.
Because I think it's way more fun than waiting for the group stages. Just straight up, let's go double limb right now.
Yeah.
But whatever. I will say it's a bit harder in Dota just because of the way the ranking system works. I think it's way inferior to CS:GO, and it's not because of anybody's fault. It's just because there's less tournaments played in Dota. So.
Yeah, that's true. CS ranking in CS is significantly more accurate because there's
more data.
It's the same teams playing in the same tournaments, pretty much.
So you have a way better data overall.
Yeah.
Yes. At that point, we may as well just skip EG. I will say, EG looked poised to be number 1. Or they already are number 1, but I mean, like, basically everybody else looks kind of shaky, but they themselves maybe they might have some shakiness in them, but we'll see. Like when they basically when EG's like at best, like nobody, I don't think anybody can stop them at this point.
Yep, sounds about right.
Let's see here. Who else is on Vitality and Shocks? What do you think of that?
I was a little bit iffy about it at first, but I mean, they
It worked one
kind of
event, but didn't work the other event.
yeah. I mean, it. I'm kind of sold on it in a lot of ways, but at the same time, I'm also like worried like that's that Zaiwu KDA after what 14 lost maps or something. Oh,
It was
or
exactly the same as before.
yeah,
It's like
it's
plus
incredible.
1,000. Everybody else is minus something.
It's incredible. So like, have things really changed now? I don't know. Um, I remain skeptical, but maybe like a little bit hopeful as well. It's yeah.
Like
I,
what?
I I'm just wondering if nothing has changed for Vitality really.
Here's my problem. Basically, is like it doesn't look like anything has changed, system wise. And the reason that's a problem is like remember that entire spiel we went about like see about Secret and LGD and all them. It's like you can't just keep running the same shit over and over again. Eventually, you're gonna get figured out. That's basically what happened to Liquid and Dota 2. I
Yeah.
think that's what's gonna happen to Vitality with this Shocks lineup because they haven't changed anything, even though they changed a player. Like if I look at this, if I look at their tactics, if I look at their setups, it's literally the exact same shit they were using with NBK. And so, what's the differential then? Firepower. Shocks isn't giving you more firepower. Is it impact? He did win a few more clutches that one time in that one tournament, but beyond that, it hasn't been that much better. Like I'm looking at this team, and I think obviously they couldn't do it, but I think they probably needed Kenny S.
Ooh.
Now that's a fucking French raw super team right there. Kenny S and Zaibu. That's the team I want.
See that kind of roster changes reminds me a little bit of what Navi just did actually. Um, just bringing Guardian back in, and
Well, Guardian isn't nearly as good as
I know
Kenny S,
he's
but
not, and I wouldn't call Navi a super team by any stretch of the imagination. Well, maybe.
I mean they are pretty close. If Guardian was old Guardian,
If it was the old Guardian, sure. But yeah, I know. I think they need to shake things up a little bit, and I think like I don't know. I just look at
like
this Navi roster
no,
in comparison.
I will say that here's the final conclusion. If Shocks comes to this realization, they're all fucked. Vitality. If Shocks comes to the same realization I did, they're all fucked. Because here's what Shocks will think: I should in-game lead to change things up,
Please no.
and then everything is fucked. But if he doesn't come to that realization, then they'll slowly stagnate. And basically, it's going to come down to their coach. I don't know how to pronounce his name, and Alex. If those two can figure out if those two can realize they've stagnated tactically and in terms of playstyle, and they legitimately need to change things up, they'll either have to change the roster. Like I think they'll. I don't even know who the fuck they'd get because they're so stuck in the French scene, and like all the other French players you want are actually on G2, like Jax, basically. Basically, you want Jackson, Kenny S, or Amanek, and they're all stuck on GT, so you can't get them.
How many French shuffles are there going to be actually?
However many French revolutions there were the back in the day. That's
Too many.
Basically, they just need to wait until Napoleon shows up. I'm still uncertain if Alex is actually Napoleon, despite the fact that he's from a island outside of the nation. Yeah. But they just need to wait for the Corsican. Right. Basically, yeah, I think Vitality is just gonna stagnate from this point on. Let's go to Navi since we already brought them up.
Yeah. No, the reason I brought up Navi is because I think the shakeup of having Simple not be the primary rifler anymore, the primary operator anymore, it's a really interesting aspect because it's a way to change things up without really changing things up, in a lot of ways. And I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't. I think it's still too early to tell. Yeah. Especially because they haven't really been to many tournaments.
Yeah, been like 3 Navi, and like one of them was Blast. Maybe. Basically, it's like 2.5.
I don't know. Yeah.
Actually, no, it's like 2.25 because after you lose on the first day, it's over. For Navi.
That's true. It's true.
With Blast.
Yeah, they were like what, third?
Yeah, third. Like they played 4 maps. That's actually like one round.
Not even talking about them. I'm talking about Malmö right now.
Oh, Malmö. Yeah.
They were like at Malmö. They were at what? Were they actually at
Star? They were at Star Ladder. They dropped out last.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, I didn't even watch that one.
Yeah, you couldn't
No,
have like
that
because you
particular group.
in your mind you think, no way, these five lose to, oh shit, they lost,
Yeah.
and then you just forget about it because Star Ladder has so many games.
Yeah, there were actually so many games. No, but like I think on paper and in theory, I think this is really gonna be interesting, and I think it could work. Even though like I there were like a couple of matches I watched, and Simple still just like ends up with the op at some point anyway, which is fair because that's like with any team, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I
But
here's Navi's actual solution. Actually, keep going. I'll go to that
no,
joke later.
so so I think this could have been funny in Vitality too if they bring in Kenny S and maybe have Zaiwu be like focused so much more on rifling
Yeah,
than opping. But no, I think Navi is. I don't know. I kind of want Navi to work, but I still feel like they need to change. I don't think this is gonna be it either.
yeah,
It
right.
it being a title contender.
Yeah, like here's the problem with Navi is like, well, actually, there's two problems. First is Guardian, and the reason I think Guardian's a problem is just because he's been given a lot of freedom, right? And as they uh basically it's going to be a reverse Peter Parker quote: with great responsibility you must have great power. Guardian doesn't have great power, but he has great responsibility.
That sounds fair, yeah.
And
Oh, that's
so
actually really good.
he doesn't deserve that responsibility of being like the primary opera on Navi when you have Simple there. And it's not even like they use him like World Edit. They use him like as if he's like the star opera. So I think that's a huge problem. If like basically if he doesn't step up and become old Guardian soon, like I don't think they should keep him. And this is coming as like a guy who loves Guardian just as a player, because I think Guardian's just one of those guys. Like I think of like a Sue, except more deserving of a title. Because unlike Sue, like Sue bungled all of his finals, whereas like Guardian just happened to be on the wrong side of his finals. He played like a god and still lost, right?
Right.
But like basically the way Navi works out, they're like people are calling them CIS phase, and I see the resemblance. Like basically like 5-star duelers just going out there finding picks, taking names. But like the problem with that style is, first off, Guardian with the op is always going to be one of your primary points of attack. And if he's not losing the duel more often than not, then you're already down 4v5. Your second problem is Boomage as a leader and as a player is ridiculously aggressive, but because he's ridiculously aggressive, like he's really static. And what I mean by that is like he's not thinking of these rounds holistically. He's like just playing the same. He's like he'll play his individual play first, and then when that doesn't work, he might play it again, or he might just die. And while he's like a surprising, he's probably a better fragger than most in-game leaders. You're losing out on the tactical aspect that the other guys get, so he has to do more. And I'm not certain that's even out yet. And then when he goes down, if he goes down, like, is there enough room created for the guy behind him to trade? Not always the case. And then your final problem with like is Simple, and I don't mean that as like Simple as a player, just mean him and his role. Like basically he's not a Cold Zero type, as in he's not the third man in. He's not going to trade everybody. What he does do is he plays and controls his side of the map as a solo wing player. A wing player being a lurker or flanker or just a guy who holds his position, because he can do all three, and he's actually excellent at all three. And the reason that's a problem is because previously you had Simple as your opener and closer, as in he could always get the first pick and he could always close the round. With Simple in this position, it's much harder for him to get the opening pick, because all the other guy has to do is just play passive against him, like throw the smoke, delay, make rotations, etc., etc. And it'll be harder for Simple to close from that position as well. So it's like you've lost like your basically like Vitality did run a system very similar to the old Navi, where like Zaiwu is in a very similar position where he's like the opener and the closer, less of an opener and more of a closer in Vitality's case. Whereas like in Navi they had a shit ton of resources pumped into Simple to open and close, and he did that. But now you're having a bunch of these other guys open and close. So basically what I'm saying is, in the old days of Navi, they had this super god named Simple who could carry everything. But in the new days of Navi, they've created the super team where everybody takes responsibility. And if one guy fucks up, they can't just look to Super God Simple to save them anymore because the system won't allow it.
The question is though, what's really better though? Like, is it fine to just rely on Simple all the time versus making sure everybody feels or has the same responsibility or at least some semblance of responsibility? Because, and this is not a good comparison, but remember the old mouse boards with Nico?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
It's just the fact that Nico is pretty much. I mean, Nico was their answer to everything, and I'm not saying that the guys surrounding him were necessarily good, right? But there were some people that definitely performed better now that he's not with them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm wondering if maybe Simple not being
Well, actually,
that,
I don't think any of them.
well,
Like, think about it. Like, they're all gone. Dennis is gone. Spitty is gone. The only guy who's done better is Chris J, right?
I was about to say Chris J. Yeah, well, maybe it's just Chris J. I guess.
Yeah, like I think it's like
I was primarily thinking of him, but now that you're mentioning, yeah,
like I think everybody except Chris J is gone.
Well, all right, then this is gonna fall apart. But maybe there's like a Chris J hiding in Navi that's just like waiting to
Yeah, his name is Electronic. He's fucking sick.
Well, he was sick before too.
Yeah. No, like I get your point. Like, cause like if you're looking at it just like pure mathematics, right? Like old Navi had Zeus and Simple. New Navi has Guardian, Boomage, Flamey, Electronic. Like theoretically, this new system should be better than the old system because they have way more skill across the board. But the problem with this new system is like it relies on something that hasn't been built yet. Like I don't know if you've seen these Blade interviews. He makes it sound like he's building a fucking Death Star, dude. Like straight up.
Not actually.
Like every interview out of these Navi guys, like it makes him sound like he's building a fucking Death Star. It's like, yeah. So basically, when Blade came in, he instituted a regime, a practice schedule, and during our practice, we have four scrims, and then we do a shit ton of discussion before the scrims, explaining all the things we have to do. And then by the time his explanation, it sounds like, wow. Like this is literally what Boomer said. Wow. Every time Blade talks, it feels like he knows everything, but he says so much that I forget what he said at the beginning. It's like, okay. And if you look at the way Blade fucking explains the system, he's like, we are no longer going to play holistic macro Counter-Strike because we have the pieces. We can make CS stronger, better, faster. And he's just like, what we're going to do is we're going to play a combination of individual and team-based Counter-Strike where every single round we make an individual play, but off the individual play will be a multitude of different paths breaking apart, and everybody will see the same path at once, and they'll instantly react like, what the fuck is this? And basically, like, if you're gonna do that kind of style, it's gonna take forever to build. That's all I'm saying. So I'm not out on it. It's just like Blade's system just sounds fucking crazy to me, because basically the way he described it, he's like he's gonna try to get all 5 players to think the exact same thing. And if you think that, you're basically trying to tell me you're gonna rebuild Swedish Counter-Strike into CIS,
which is almost impossible,
right?
In my opinion, anyway. I wonder if did you see the Reddit thread that one of the Stolator admins apparently
he got fired, didn't he?
I know he got fired for it, which makes me believe that what he said might not have been that wrong or that inaccurate.
No, it's probably completely accurate because all the Navi guys didn't even deny it.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, at that point, then we kind of have to take that into account too, right? To the success or the lack thereof for this team in the future of it. Like if it's already in such disarray, like what, 2 weeks, 3 weeks into this roster, 4 weeks? How long has this been going? Like
it hasn't been very long.
Like 6 weeks maybe. Let's say since the major, so it's like 2 months, right? Yeah. 2 months. If there's this much friction, to put it nicely, because apparently there was like screaming and whatever going on. Does this future even have a future then? Have this roster any future then?
Yeah, because what's gonna happen is they're going to after the screaming is done, they're gonna go back to the hotel and it's like, was it really worth it? Then they're gonna go scroll to the YouTube and type in to the search bar simple highlights. Then they're gonna rewatch it and be like, yes, it is worth it. There you go.
I don't know. I'm just worried because CIS mentality might not really be really that great for that, because I think there's a lot of like um
Here's
let's compare it to, for example, in TI4,
newbie
Chinese team, newbie. Zhao Wei literally screaming at his team pretty much at every goddamn corner,
fist fight.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
and
my
they
favorite.
still
That was
win
my
the
favorite anecdote. Fucking fist fight,
thing.
and they won TI.
They won TI,
Fuck team chemistry.
right? Would that have worked in a CS team where there's like so much lack of discipline, where it's just like, well,
Uh,
fuck you guys
I
then?
mean, technically, isn't that what Zeus has been doing the entire time?
I guess.
Yeah. Like, I actually don't know if that'll work though, because like obviously Zeus didn't make it work. But here's the thing about Zeus: his last few years have been shit, but when he was actually legitimately motivated, he made it work. When he was legitimately
True.
motivated, Gambit, and then apparently his years in his years on Navi in CS 1.6, he did run like a really fucking good team. The problem with that, the problem with this is like it's coming from Simple, right? As far as I know, Simple is like a discipliner, and Simple has grown a lot. I just don't know how much impulse control this kid that he can really have in the middle of the match. Because like, what's great about Simple is that he's got like Naniwa problems. Like I don't know if you remember Naniwa from StarCraft 2, but like
Oh, I do.
his like the reason Naniwa was so great is also the reason why he had the most outbursts and drama of any like foreigner player ever, is because he cared most of all of them, right? And that's what you want from your superstar player. And Simple,
Well,
straight up,
that's StarCraft. It's a
yeah,
different game.
yeah.
I mean, it's
And
also one
funny
game.
enough, it destroyed Naniwa in a way. I think the reason Naniwa chokes so much is because he cared so much. But
Yeah.
and Simple is very similar to that, except he doesn't choke. He's actually ridiculously clutch. But in Simple's
By the
case,
way,
like it might destroy his teammates. So the question for Simple is like, can he control that? Who knows? Who
by the
fuck
way,
knows?
I actually think, and this is, we should have. This is like about an hour too late now, but I think this is also one of the reasons RTZ is not winning anything, because he cares too much about winning.
Does he? I don't. I've
I,
never seen any interviews. So
no, I think he's, from my perspective anyway. Maybe I'm completely reading it completely wrong, but I think he wants it too much, considering he's never had it. He's never really won anything. And I think
he's ne-
he might just be in his head too much about like really really trying to win that.
well, what's funny is like I think this last TI was the best was the best showing.
It was actually his best showing in any TI.
But I kind of agree, but like the problem with I have with Arteezy is like I just don't know him. Like he isn't fucking crazy like Naniwa or Simple. So it's really obvious when you can see it in Naniwa and Simple, right? Like
That's true. That's true.
fucking anecdotes. Naniwa screaming in the parking lot after losing the MVP and shit. It's like, oh, obviously this guy
Yeah.
cares. But
Getting back to simple. How do you, or rather, um, how do you think maybe he should try his luck somewhere else, just completely in a different environment? Because I mean, he was he could fit into. I wouldn't say he could fit into, but like he speaks English.
rerun Liquid all over again. Let's do it, Simple Liege, baby. Is that
Yeah,
is
I
that what you
mean,
want to say?
not necessarily. Obviously, there were problems in that lineup too, but I mean, he speaks English, so he doesn't have to be bound to like a Russian-speaking lineup, right? Or
Well, he does now
Ukrainian-speaking
because he
lineup.
re-signed the contract, and
Well,
nobody's
yeah,
repaying that shit. But
no, definitely not.
um, I don't know. I don't know. What's funny about Simple is he does have really strong knowledge about CS, and the reason I bring that up is because I think he has like his knowledge. His knowledge makes him think that he needs to play, probably needs to play a national team, because guess what? All the major winners have all been national teams, basically. Like straight up. So if you want to be a major winner, you gotta be an all national team. Second thing is like he kind of does respect leaders way more than the average star player does. Like I don't like there's a reason like they kept around Zeus. Like if this was FaZe, I think Nico would have kicked out Zeus within like a few months.
Yeah, probably.
Whereas Simple just kept letting him go because guess what? Zeus was a leader. He did on some level he did respect it. Though I don't know if you saw this, but it's a fucking amazing quote. Basically, somebody, the Navi team, the Navi org asked Simple what it was like playing with Zeus for the last few months. He's like, It was strange. It wasn't consistent because one day he'd want to retire, the next day he'd be all in. It felt like the Last Crusade. Like, what? What?
I mean, just from watching it, it certainly felt similar.
Yeah. So I just thought it was a funny. I thought it was a funny like quote that basically characterizes the final months of that lineup. But yeah,
Pretty well.
yeah. Basically, what's funny about Navi is like going back to the Death Star analogy. If you look at all 5 players, all 5 of them were chosen by Blade. Flamey came out of Blade's flipside team. Simple came out of Blade's flipside team. Electronic came out of Blade's flipside team. Blade got to choose who was the new 5th player, whether it was going to be Guardian or not. Blade chose Boomage as the new in-game leader. This is Blade's Death Star, right? So, because it's Blade's Death Star, basically, just give... and the system he's trying to implement, I'd at least give him like 4 months. 4 more months. Before I blow it up. Because, like, I think the major is in May, right? So... if you can't get it together by like February or March of next year, then you can change.
So I'm just worried that his Death Star has too big of a
too big of a hole, too big of a really obvious hole.
Yeah, where you don't even need to steal the plants in order to.
Well, I mean, the thing is like the other Death Star had Zeus and Edward, so.
Well, 2 holes. It was just a tunnel, really.
Like that way you didn't even need the Force. You just like click the buttons, like, oh shit, I'm the chosen one. Like, no, dude, it's just a giant hole in the center.
It's not really a Death Star; it's more of a donut. Yeah, no. I mean, yeah, I also think this team definitely needs a little bit more time. I'm just worried because of that Starlighter report. Like, if they're already like really screaming at each other, I don't know. But I mean, at the same time, they're also grown men, so I feel like that's just stuff that can be worked out. So
yeah. We'll have to see. Like, I do know like it's a bit different in actually. It's a bit in CS:GO at least. CS:GO and Dota, it's a bit different. Like, I think you can get away with that a bit more just because people split up. As in, like, go to Atlanta, then you split up and go home, so you can cool off. I think it's a bigger problem if you're in like a franchise league, where it's like you see each other every day.
Right.
That's when shit gets real. Right. I think that's also why Fnatic broke up the first time, because they saw each other every day.
And this is why, by the way, I mean, this is again somewhat off topic, but I'm really not a big fan of like how a lot of these teams are run. Like the whole like living together and like spending time like 24/7 on it and with one another is just so overrated. And luckily it's really not the standard anymore. But
I think it's really destructive. Like
I think so too.
I think it's really funny. Like I think it's really funny that the org owners and the basically the org owners who like talk the most about player treatment and all that shit are all from the franchise leagues, but they're also the ones creating the most burnout of any org owner because the fundamental system they implement for like the LCS or Overwatch creates that burnout and destroys their players far more than an open circuit does. I just think it's like hilarious in a sense, like because they all know the answer, they just won't do it, right?
Yeah.
Or like they know like the technical answer, but they're like, but it doesn't give me money, so there's a price to it. But whatever.
Oh yeah, that's a whole different.
That's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go to Fnatic. What do you think of this reunion? This reunion that 2.0.
This reunion.
The reunion that should have never split up to begin with. Yes, this one.
It's something. I mean, I think they showed what the first time probably could have been. If they had just,
what the first time was, technically. They did win the IM Katowice over phase and sent Olaf into hiatus. That's how destructive they were. They sent Olaf into hiatus, like, oh god, I can't handle this, and he disappeared for like 8 months.
I think at the time, though, a lot of people were also just like, I think it's worth noting that win was also just Flusha being like almost
Flush a time machine.
Yeah, Flusha. Apparently, there's like a time machine, maybe like a loophole in
Katowice.
and he just jumped back into it, and like Flusha 2015 came out and was like, "Yo, what's up, motherfuckers?" Um.
I wish you bring back
Anyway,
Virtus Pro too, but
Pasha's biceps just don't fit
I'm
through it.
back.
That's why.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I am actually surprised, and I'm kind of almost happy for it too, because it's always good to see like Crims and even JW being
Good again.
good again, just because I think they're fun to watch when they're good.
Mm-hmm.
JW, I mean, but that's my question now. Is Fnatic actually good again now, or am I gonna, like, in 2 months from now, am I gonna watch JW being shit again?
Here's the thing. What's good about this Fnatic is this is the closest version I've seen to Fnatic 2015.
Probably yes.
Yeah, because I think if you just look, Flusha is still Flusha. I think he's a lesser version of that Flusha, but he's still Flusha. Golden is a better version of Pronax, actually. Because I think Pronax, the old version, was a slightly worse player. I think they had similar impact, though. But what's different is like this Golden is way more aggressive, so it's harder to read him compared to Pronax. It's also why Pronax always lost to Kerrigan and always lost to Existence. Right? You go to Crims versus Crims. I think Crims now is better than Crims back then. But what's different about them is like their roles have changed. Like this Crims is like it's like a combination of Olaf and Crims. And like he basically has like similar highlights to old Olaf, but he has a fundamental game sense of old Crims. So it's like he's a fucking god. Is what he is. JW is still JW except lesser, but here's the thing. If you ask me like after they won that, I think it was Malmo they won, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you ask me after Malmo if this Fnatic could do it again, I'd say no, because the reason they couldn't do it is because their two primary carries were Crims and JW, and you can't believe in JW to be your second carry. You just can't do it. It's just not good enough. His style is way too inconsistent for it to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
What the difference though for me and that and Star Ladder is like at Star Ladder their second carry was actually Brolan. Actually used their primary carry. I think he was a straight up best player at that tournament. And Brolan is very similar to Olaf. Very similar. Very very aggressive, very duel heavy. Likes to get in there and fight. You combine him with Crims, you have a very strong set of dual stars. And unlike I won't say unlike other players, but I think he's I think with the way Fnatic play, he shouldn't get red easily. But we'll see when it comes against like Astralis or something, whether or not he can get red easily or not. But basically, I think like because Brolan has come out as like this secondary star or primary star, JW can fit as the third wild card, and you do that, and then you add on like their team play, their team chemistry, which is fucking fantastic. It's as good or better than they were the last time around. Then I think they could be in like the top three. Because I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Like I don't know why everybody's like super high on Astralis after the major. Like I think that Astralis was very specific to the major. Like I think they basically did like a bunch of tactical shit. That was like a really,
that sounds fair.
That was really that just basically blindsided a bunch of people.
Oh yeah, no, that's true.
And so it's like really hard for me to believe that Astralis is coming back. So I think Astralis is falling out. Like I thought Vitaly would take that place, but I think, like I said, Vitaly is stagnating. So who else do you have? Liquid? I don't know what the fuck's going on with Liquid.
I don't think anybody knows.
All right. So who else is there? Navi. Well, the Death Star is still. I don't know where the fuck that Death Star is going right now. EG looks fantastic. Well, in that case, Fnatic still look like they're poised to stay in top 3.
That's a fair shout. Well, maybe. Well, there's a couple of other teams that might be worth noting. Wait, who's your second in that?
I don't even know. I think for now I'll stick with Astralis. Like, I gotta believe in tactics, man. Somebody's got to. And I will say this: Blast has always been fucking terrible for Astralis. Like, because they've always been ever since Glaive joined this team, they've always been slower starters in the group stages. And guess what? Blast is like 80% group stage and best of one at that. So I don't know what you expect from Astralis. They don't warm up well. in that particular format.
Plus they also had the whole device thing.
Yeah, so I think basically the top three is that is now on HLTV. EG, Astralis, Fnatic. I think those are your top three.
I think that sounds fair. I think there. I mean, if anything, I think Mousesports is like a roster change away from maybe also becoming like a top 3 team.
Like I know the roster change they could make, but they won't make.
Which would be
Oscar for Woxic.
Yeah, I don't see it happening either.
Yeah, but fucking Oscar is amazing still. I swear to God. But
so yeah, I think this is something like that's a team worth I wouldn't say looking out for, but yeah, kind of looking out for. I don't know. Other than that, yeah, I guess Fnatic does like it's sort of like we talked about this earlier this year too. Like some teams are just good because there's just not like the other teams are just bad.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, sometimes it's like that.
Yeah, and we're still waiting for the resurrection of MIBR in phase. So
I wouldn't hold your breath.
Maybe not even resurrection, but more like.
Are you good yet?
Restructuring.
I don't know about MIBR. It's harder. Like, what's the problem with MIBR is like, I have to wait for Fur to become godlike again. Like, am I really gonna? How long am I gonna have to wait for that? I don't know, man. Listen, if he comes back to 2017, it's all good. It's all gravy. Because that Fur was, like, untouchable. But I don't know if he's going to reach that level. I can't believe in that. As for FaZe, it's like... Basically, I'm going to come out with an article video thing. It's called Nico versus himself. And that kind of explains it. Like, if you just look at the roster changes FaZe has made, I don't think Nico understands who he's supposed to be. Like, I don't know if he legitimately understands. He's either supposed... He only has two choices, and he's waffles between them. He's either supposed to be a superstar player, or he's supposed to be an in-game leader. Like you can't be both. You got to choose one or the other.
Right.
Like I can't figure out if he knows that or not. So.
Yeah, that's gonna take some time, unfortunately.
Like I've never, like the last.
I feel like
the last time I've ever heard of a superstar that was an in-game leader was in CS 1.6. Apparently, God B used to do it. That's all I've heard.
Like I feel like if he hasn't noticed it. But at this point, he might just
never notice it.
Well, he probably noticed it. He just doesn't care.
Yeah, maybe.
Because it's impossible not to notice, in my opinion. But yeah,
I guess there's a few other roster changes we'll go over. G2, what do you think of this? Did you see them?
Yeah, I mean they
Hunter and Nexa.
Yeah,
they've gone international and are immediately better than Vitality.
Who would have guessed that?
Every Dota nerd of all time, yeah.
And I know it's not an arbitrary restriction, but like to me, sticking to just one nationality is kind of arbitrary at this point.
It's only arbitrary if it's not on language, based on language.
Well,
like it doesn't make sense to put a Chinese player in an English team, right? You know what I mean? But, or like a Russian speaker to English team is just too hard. But like in English to English, like it's fine.
Yeah. So I mean, and even, well, you say that, but obviously, if like the Russian or the Chinese person that like if their English is fine to communicate, like
then that's fine too.
Like, yeah, exactly, and like all of these French players, their English is good enough to compete.
Yeah.
Like to compete on an international team.
Yeah. Basically, what I'm saying is Burning should have joined an English speaking team.
Yes. I agree. Oh man, that would have been the dream.
one last time.
That's right, bro. Well, obviously at that point you gotta talk cultural changes that makes it difficult, right? But like for this French team in particular, there's definitely, in my opinion, no reason to not play with non-English, non-French speakers, and I'm glad that G2 finally did it, because there's only so many different constellations you can make with like the same 25 French people.
Yeah.
Right? Not even 25.
And what's funny is like they got the right ones at the very, very end. They're like, fine, we will try to use Almanac. Fine, we will try to use Alex. Fine, we will try to use Jax. What the fuck? These guys are good. Like he came to them at the very, very end of this rope. What is this?
So yeah, I'm glad this is working out for them. Ironically, like the pieces they got Nexa and Hunter aren't even like the most prestigious pieces they could have gotten, I think.
Yeah, like I think I wrote like they could have got Kerrigan.
Yeah.
If they wanted to make this move a cycle earlier, like I will say though, I think they're pretty good. They're like pretty good players next to Hunter. And I
Can
feel
I?
like Hunter was underrated for a long time. So
That's fair. That's fair. Just to get back to the current point, I know I've made this point before, but I cannot believe that Mousewood's the only team that actually got him. Or Mousewood's the team that got him. Like when he got dropped from FaZe, every team that wasn't Astralis at that point, or Liquid, I guess, should have immediately said, "We need this guy for any money in the world."
yeah, I am so shocked. I
Same,
I am so disgusted. I'm so disgusted that happened. In a
yeah,
sense,
same.
it also makes me think I
Absolutely
should
same.
be a GM of a team. I don't even need to work that hard. It's like today I will buy Kerrigan. I'll see you guys later. That's it. We're done here. Because Kerrigan
Um,
fixes the rest of it
yeah,
for you.
pretty
So
much anyway.
yeah, but
And then, yeah, after that, you just listen to Kerrigan and buy whoever play he wants, and then you're good
yeah,
to
and
go.
then every once in a while, like when the players got uppity, I show up. It's like, okay, you two are kicked out. Kerrigan, you
Uh,
stay. Pick two new players. Like
uh,
that's actually the system you're supposed to run with Kerrigan. Is like the problem with Kerrigan, the potential problem with Kerrigan is he might not be ruthless enough to go full fallen. And what I mean by full fallen is like if you look at the period where Brazil was the best with Fallen's teams, it's because he always made the ruthless cut
the
at the
ruthless, yeah,
right
where he just,
time.
yeah,
And people were like, oh man, that was from the entire team. That was from everybody. But Fallen was, the last. Fallen is like the leader, technically. He has the final responsibility and say. And I think he had that puppy thing where I don't know if I can't find this interview anymore. But basically, like Puppy, like somebody asked Puppy how like the old secret ran, the All Star secret. He's like, everybody thinks they're the captain, but I'm the actual captain. They just like basically he just lets them
yeah.
come up with solutions, but he already knows what their solutions are going to be, and he's like, yeah, of course we'll do that. And then they think in their minds they have the freedom of choice, when in actuality they're just doing exactly what he wants. That's kind of how I think of Fallen, right? And so basically that's how you're supposed to run a Kerrigan team, is like you just make the ruthless cuts for him when the time comes ripe.
Just Kerrigan, please close your eyes. You don't want to see what's gonna happen. No, Woxic, no.
If it was me on phase, like goodbye Olaf, goodbye Guardian, going on to the next, or something
Oh
like that. Like
no, but they won Blast now. They're a really good team.
sure, whatever, man, whatever. Um, but all right, I I I guess that we'll go the combination of the last two, Ents and OG, and let's talk about Ents. Will this go down as the weirdest roster move of all time?
Oh yeah, probably.
Will this go down as the worst roster move of all time?
Oh, I wouldn't say worst.
Yeah,
I think they've been worse.
but it will go down as the most mystifying, though, won't it?
Yeah, it'll be interesting once Alexi B builds his own team
I'm
and
just
just like,
I'm just waiting, man. Because I've been waiting.
oh,
I wanted to write this article for weeks now. It's like NBK and Lexi B, the Counts of Monte Cristo, or something, or some shit like that. Right? Just think about it. Those two. I know NBK wants revenge because he's French and he probably read that book
oh
when he
yeah,
was young. And I know Lexi B in his mind he's thinking, because the thing about Lexi B is like he's finished, yeah, but like even he basically what was it? Uh, what was that player's name? I forget. But one Ariel. He came out with an interview saying Alexi B didn't do much as an in-game leader, really. And then he's like, "What? What the fuck is this?" Or he's like, "LOL, what is this?" And I was basically finished for like, "What the fuck? What are you trying to say?" But yeah, I'm just waiting for this revenge story to start, man. Because listen, they don't actually have to do that much to get revenge on Ents. They just have to be better than Ents.
which is not really that difficult right now.
Not that difficult right now, no. Because Ents is going to get worse. Because I don't think they realize that in-game leading destroys players, and I don't think they realize Alu was like their second best player. Like I don't really understand that choice of making him in-game leader.
I mean, it's pretty much just Nico syndrome, isn't it? Like the whole like you feel like
I feel like
and to a degree, it's like and I think this exists in Dota much more so because in Dota, like the star player doing the in-game calling isn't really that destructive because realistically speaking, a lot of the star players do in-game calling anyway. But I think it's happening in CS now because like these star players, they're like the ego is getting to them. It's like this whole like, oh well, I'm really good at this game. I know how we do things. Trust me, right?
I think it's also part the structure. It's also because of the way the game works. Like Dota is like, I don't care how good any superstar player is in Dota. I'm telling you, like 100%, none of them call early game because they're all too focused on lane. It's just too much work.
Yeah, that's true.
And so in their minds, they're thinking, I do need an in-game leader because that guy will take care of the early game, and then when I get fucking rich, that's when I'll take over. That's what they're technically supposed to do as a fucking carry. To be fair, is like the moment you get rich enough, you're the one with the best understanding of the timing of your items and the timing of the game,
Right.
because you have the most power, thus the most responsibility. Again, Peter Parker was right. So,
Well, technically his uncle.
his uncle, technically Stan Lee. Apparently, his uncle never said that. It was like a narrative quote from Stan Lee or something.
Oh shit. Well,
That's weird.
Stanley.
But nobody cares. Like everybody knows it's about Spider-Man. But yeah, that's just how it goes. But yeah, I think Ents is gonna go down as the most depressing story for me because I love that old team, and this new team doesn't work like that at all.
And that team should have gone the distance at some point too.
Yeah.
But yeah, now now it's gonna be a fun revenge story, and I think, I mean, who doesn't like a good revenge story of, like, you know, LXB having to build a roster of his own now just to take down his old team,
Teaming up with NBK,
and who also has the same agenda. This is like digital chaos, dude.
Yeah, I love it. I'm down. And then Misery shows up as coach. Like, why are you here, Misery? I am always here for revenge. Like, what? You don't even play this game. It doesn't matter.
No, I'm looking forward to this. Unfortunately, this whole roster building thing takes.
It's taking way too long.
Taking way too long. Well, apparently there's also obviously the buyout issues, right?
With both teams, I imagine.
And Ents or something, yeah.
Yeah, like,
and probably Vitality.
Like, there's no way. Like, what's surprising about the most surprising thing about Lixie B deciding to go with OG is, like, in my mind I was thinking, OG isn't that rich of a team. Like, I know they won TI, but it's not like they get the TI money. Like,
no, not really. Well, yes and no, because Seb and
no, but like,
are...
no way do Seb and NoTail use their money to buy out CS:GO players. NoTail's out there trying to save the fucking world.
Yeah, he's trying to save the planet. No, but apparently, no. Well, yeah.
Well,
anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see, I guess. But yeah, I'm also surprised that they went with OG. Maybe there's like this whole like Finnish connection between him and Thompson. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we will see. I think that about covers it for Counter-Strike. Was there anything else?
Yeah. No, I think this is pretty much it.
Yeah. All right. Any final word? Oh. Any final words?
No. Only that. Well, actually, I think it's safe to say that our roster will be revealed sometime soon. So if anybody's looking out for that, just stay tuned.
Yeah, and it will. Yeah, I can't wait for that because it actually looks. Reportedly, it looks legit. Looks pretty legit. Looks like it could be like a second best NA team or a third best. I mean, after Liquid.
The reported roster certainly sounds interesting.
Yeah, so we will see. All right, see you guys later.